The story begins with Suma, a middle school kid, cooking up a truly terrible food combination. After tasting it, he realizes how disgusting it is and giggles proudly. It's the type of food roaches would avoid. Suma works as a chef alongside his dad at their family diner. They're well known around the area, and the place is always packed, which can only mean one thing: the food there is really good. Suma and his father, Joichiro, often have a cooking contest, and today is one of those days. With Mayumi, Suma's middle school friend, acting as the judge, the two prepare and present their dishes. The crowd watches in anticipation, though it's common knowledge that Joichiro will win. This isn't their first competition, and from past records, Joichiro has always come out on top. After carefully tasting both dishes, Mayumi quietly analyzes them and announces her decision. As expected, Joichiro wins again. He proudly rubs his flawless winning streak in Suma's face, claiming Suma has lost to him about 500 times. Suma, clearly giving off the angry loser vibe, protests and insists he has only lost 489 times. That really isn't much better, dog. Seeing Suma sulking, Mayumi tries to console him, saying his dish was good too. Suma immediately gets his revenge by offering her the nasty dish he made earlier. He shoves it into her mouth, and it's almost like tasting the Madame Web movie. The people around are used to Suma forcing his failed dishes on others. In fact, it's kind of a family trait, as Joichiro also creates nasty and awful meals from time to time. If they're capable of making incredible food, it only makes sense that they're equally talented at making terrible ones. Even in that aspect, Suma and his father argue over who can make the worst dish. Suma is an impressive cook, but Joichiro is still leagues ahead of him. Despite this, Suma isn't discouraged. He firmly believes that one day he'll surpass his father. Once he graduates from middle school, he plans to focus entirely on improving his cooking. As the day comes to an end and the diner prepares to close, an unwelcome visitor arrives. Yaeko, an urban planner, shows up with her men. She's been eyeing the diner's location for a while now. Soma shuts her down immediately before she can start her pitch. This isn't her first visit, and he knows exactly what she wants. He makes it clear they aren't selling and have no intention of closing the diner. Yaeko tries another angle, pointing out that many restaurants struggle with money or supplies. Suma confidently says their diner has never had those problems and never will. He insists they'll always be able to serve whatever customers ask for. Yaeko then asks what he'd do if they ever failed. Without hesitation, Soma declares that they'd shut down the diner if that happened. After making sure he means it, Yaeko leaves. The following day after school, Joichiro tells Suma that he won't be home as he's heading out to handle some business. This is unusual since Joichiro is almost always at the diner. Out of nowhere, he asks Suma what he plans to do after middle school. Confused, Suma replies that he wants to continue cooking at the diner. Joichiro ends the call shortly after. Everything feels off to Suma. He can't understand what could be so important that his dad would close the diner for the day. As he heads there, he admits to himself that he actually knows very little about Joichiro as a chef. When Suma arrives, he's horrified. The diner is a mess. It looks like it's been ransacked, yet nothing was stolen. Instead, the supplies, especially the meat, are completely ruined, and the diner's signboard is trashed. Right on cue, Yaeko shows up. This was her doing. She completes her plan by demanding a juicy meat dish. She reminds Suma of his promise to shut down the diner if he ever failed to satisfy a customer. Confidently, she points out that all the meat has been destroyed, but Suma isn't backing down. Furious at the damage but still composed, he agrees to cook. However, he asks Yaeko to promise that if he succeeds, she'll leave the diner alone forever. Suma starts cooking with ingredients that clearly don't belong in a meat dish. The request was for meat, yet he's chopping potatoes. It confuses everyone watching, including Yaeko. She confirms with one of her men that Suma's supplies were wrecked and the meat ruined. Even so, Suma's confidence is unsettling to Yaeko. To everyone's shock, he produces a perfectly cooked pork roast. Suma casually explains that he wrapped potatoes in bacon he bought on his way home from school. Yaeko is annoyed, convinced Suma is making a fool out of her, and insists he's failed to meet her request. She demands ownership of the diner immediately, declaring that such a low-class restaurant doesn't deserve to exist. Suma insists she taste the dish first. Reluctantly, Yaeko takes a bite. Immediately, the flavor overwhelms her and her attitude shifts completely. Suma explains his process, proving that their diner is anything but worthless. Yaeko and her men are stunned by the fact that Suma pulled off something so incredible despite having his ingredients destroyed. Though Yaeko refuses to openly admit defeat, she can't stop craving more. Suma denies her another bite and uses this to his advantage. He offers the rest of the dish on one condition: she leaves and never returns. Completely captivated by the food, Yaeko loses her aura and agrees. Only then does Suma let her and her men finish the dish. The dish is so good it knocks them out cold. The next morning, Suma is cleaning up the messed up signboard when Joichiro returns. He asks what happened, but Suma brushes it off, saying they just dealt with a rude customer. Suma remains upbeat until Joichiro drops the bombshell. He announces that he's shutting down the diner for the next 2 or 3 years. The news hits Suma as hard as Saitama's serious punch. Joichiro explains that an old friend invited him to work together. Suma strongly opposes the idea, but there's nothing he can do. When he insists insists that he wants to keep working at the diner, Joichiro brings up cooking school. He wants Suma to test his skills, grow stronger, and improve as a chef. Reluctantly, Suma agrees. He heads to the school expecting it to be dull and pointless, but the moment he arrives, he realizes how serious it is. Students are begging to be allowed back in after being expelled. Over the phone, Yoichiro explains that this is the top culinary academy in Japan and only a select few ever make it through. Irina is tasting some chef's food, and the last one tastes like she's in a bath with a gorilla, so she slams the plate all over the dude's head. She scolds them all, and the guys have to apologize because after all, her taste buds cannot be compared to those of mere mortals. Meanwhile, Suma is so shocked by what he sees. He is obviously in an elite institution because almost everyone has a bodyguard. Joichiro confirms this. Suma is standing in one of the best culinary schools in the country, whose graduation rate is less than 10%. While Joichiro is still talking, Suma overhears someone talking to him, so he asks where his dad is and finds out that he's in New York. Bro abandoned his son for a better life. Lol. He is now working as a cook in a fancy restaurant, and everyone loves his food. Suddenly, a monk barges in. He can't control himself at the sight of Joichiro's food, so he rips his clothes and levitates, traumatizing the poor customers. Meanwhile, Joichiro is still on a call with Suma and tells him about his plans to be cooking up and down the East Coast for a while. He adds that if Suma cannot survive in the academy, he should kiss his dream of surpassing him goodbye. Suma immediately ends the call, surprising Yoichiro, but he doesn't have much time to think about it as he is called back into the restaurant. Joichiro thinks to himself that the secret to becoming a good chef is to find a woman he would want to cook for the rest of his life, just like he himself did. Bro said, love is the secret ingredient. Back at the academy, Hisako hands Arina her schedule, and she sees that the next thing on her plate is to judge the transfer exams, though she is not a big fan of that. Meanwhile, as Suma enters the academy, he is determined to make it to graduation, accepting his dad's challenge. He steps on a chair, disturbing another student's tea time. Suma apologizes to the dude, but he brushes it off and invites Suma to take a seat. The boy Yoshiaki tells Suma about the school and their transfer exams before introducing himself and his family business, a French restaurant. Suma finds this surprising. He feels it's a coincidence since his family also runs a restaurant, but Yoshiaki tells him that almost everyone in the school has some sort of tie to the culinary world. Yoshiaki then asks for the name of Suma's restaurant, and Bro proudly tells him that they run a diner downtown. Yoshiaki activates his flexibility, and Suma finds himself on the floor. Bro's evil aura surfaces, and he is upset that Suma had the right to sit beside him, calling him a low commoner and saying that the academy is not for the likes of him. Suma resorts to violence and tells Yoshiaki not to judge his family restaurant when he hasn't even eaten any of their meals. He then lets him go, and Yoshiaki's guards rush to check up on him as Suma angrily walks away. The other students who overheard now look down on Suma. Judging from how he is being treated, Suma wonders what type of examiner he'll get. Unfortunately, it's Arina. Suma is surprised that a student is the examiner, but Arina goes straight to the point. When Hisako reads out the instructions, Arina cuts her off. She thinks it's all a waste of time and decides to give her own instructions. She tells Hisako to bring in the kitchen table and then informs everyone that the main ingredient will be egg, and they're each supposed to create one dish. The people who will be allowed to transfer into the school are those whose food will impress her palate. She then gives them a minute to withdraw their application right away, and almost immediately everyone runs away. Suma is surprised and confused at the same time, so he stops Yoshiaki to ask why everyone's running. Yoshiaki tells him that Arina is known to have a divine tongue, and she has been like that right from birth. At an age where her mates couldn't even talk, Arina tasted breast milk and was so unimpressed that she voiced out her disappointment. Since she was young, she has been a taste tester at famous restaurants across the nation. He finally adds that her evaluation of someone spreads fast in the industry, and if she were to tag a person as a talentless loser, their cooking career would be over before it even started. Suma then lets him go. Arina, on the other hand, already assumes that everyone bailed, and while she and Hisako are in their own world, Suma's voice interrupts them, asking if there are any other instructions concerning the cooking. Arina is surprised that she is a challenger, but she tells him that he can make anything he wants as long as he uses eggs. Suma is relieved and touches Arina as he expresses how he thought she might fail him even before he got to cook. Almost immediately, Hisako swoops in, informing Suma that Arina is not on his level. She tells him that Arina is the top of her junior high class and the youngest member ever of the Elite 10 Council. The talk is too boring, and Suma gets distracted, but when his attention is called back, he confirms that he still wants to take the exams. When Arina reviews his application, she is even more disappointed, but she decides to allow him anyway. Suma begins cooking, and the girls are left wondering what he is preparing since he hasn't said anything yet. Arina gets really curious and asks what he is making, but Suma is kinda disappointed that she can't tell. He finally tells her it's rice with seasoning. This definitely sounds like a waste of time to Arina, like something you eat at 3 a.m. with no groceries, and she wants to leave, but Suma adds that it's no ordinary seasoning. Arina decides to give him a chance, and Bro continues cooking. Meanwhile, someone is behind the scenes watching. When Suma is done, he serves the food, but it looks really basic. Arina is convinced that she wasted her time and is is not pleased. The food doesn't arouse her appetite, as she is used to fancy cuisines. Erina tries to leave again, but Suma calls her attention to the food and her eyes catch something beneath the egg. Suma then serves the rice, and when he pours out the egg onto it, Erina is impressed for the first time since meeting Suma. When Erina takes the first bite, she enjoys it so much that she forgets she is an examiner and becomes a customer. So she goes in for a second bite and finally figures out what he used to prepare the egg. Suma explains the whole process to her, and Erina is really impressed. This is unlike anything she has ever eaten, so she takes another bite and it feels even better. However, she pretends that it's no good and fails Suma. When she returns to her office, she informs the director of academics that no one passed the exams, unknown to her that after they all left, the director, who was watching from the shadows, tasted the food and loved it. 2 years ago, Megumi said goodbye to her family as she was about to set out for Tokyo to attend Totsuki Academy. Her mom even gave her a luck charm to help her stay focused on her studies, but sis swapped badly and has been taking non-stop L's. She is eventually given a final notice. If she gets an E grade one more time, she will be expelled. So for the new school year, it feels like she is standing right on the edge of a cliff. During the all-school assembly, Erina is given a class badge, and as usual, everyone feels honored to see her. One dude in the crowd is completely delulu, talking about going out with Erina, and another guy has to warn him to keep his mouth shut, since Erina is the granddaughter of the Don who heads the food industry mafia. Bro is talking like he is not a background character. The director, Senzamon, who is also the mafia don, gives a speech. He congratulates the students for making it to the high school division and reminds them that only 1% of them will likely move to the next stage, since the school doesn't tolerate being mid. After concluding his speech, more like a threat, he leaves. Meanwhile, Erina is backstage. She thinks to herself about how strict the school's grading system is, but luckily, if any student eventually makes it to graduation, their fame is guaranteed in the culinary world. However, she looks down on her mates. To her, they have no choice but to fight for second place because first place in the academy and the entire nation belongs to her. As Erina overhears Urara, the announcer, introducing a transfer student, she assumes it's someone else. Her mind drifts back to Suma and how his food violated her, which upsets her. She wishes never to see him again. But to her shock, the transfer student is Suma. Bro introduces himself and casually says the school is just a stepping stone for him and that he doesn't plan on losing to any of them, straight up announcing that the #1 spot is his. Soma's little speech pisses almost everyone off, and they start throwing stuff at him. Going backstage, Suma runs into an angry Erina. He tries to be friendly, but she goes off on him, demanding to know why he is there. Suma shows her his acceptance letter, surprising Erina, who was sure she rejected him. Knowing it's useless to make a fuss now, she tells him she has neither accepted him nor his cooking. His desire for the top spot truly annoys her, considering all the training the others went through in junior high. As Erina is about to leave, Suma tells her that he was 3 years old when he first held a knife, and since then, he has practically spent his entire life in the kitchen, so 3 years in junior high can't compare to that. He refuses to let her drag his restaurant's name through the mud and promises to make her say his food is delicious. Senzamon, who is eavesdropping, is amused. The assembly ends, and Yuki and Ryuko discuss the new transfer student. They don't really have beef with him because Ryuko thinks that is exactly the kind of attitude you need to survive at the school. After a while, they notice Megumi isn't with them. Sis is hiding somewhere, thinking about quitting. She figures she will be the first one out since she got the lowest score on the entrance exams and has been on L's for the longest time. However, she realizes she can't give up. Her family was so excited for her and truly believes in her, she then decides to keep her head down and avoid people like Suma to escape unnecessary attention. Unfortunately for her, during the first class, they are told to work in pairs, and she gets paired with Suma. Everyone is giving them angry stares like they're about to jump them after class, but Suma doesn't really care, unlike Megumi, who is panicking. She is disappointed that she got paired with Suma. He seems friendly, but the stares make her uncomfortable. Luckily for her, the teacher, Roland, walks in. He informs them that anyone who doesn't get an A rating in his class automatically gets an E rating. Megumi is even more terrified. She knows how ruthless he is, that he is even nicknamed the chef who never smiles. Roland gives out instructions on what to do, but Suma can't understand a thing. At this point, whatever confidence Megumi had just flew out the window, but Suma is pretty confident in his skills. When Suma goes to check the recipe, he still gets stared down by others. Most students have already started cooking, and Megumi begins prepping. She leaves the beef cooking on low heat and steps away to do something else, only for Suma to call her attention to the pot, which is half open and now cooking on full heat. Suma looks around and catches the deadly glares of 2 dudes nearby, and he instantly clocks what just happened. When they check the pot, there is a massive lump of salt sitting in their beef. Roland notices they have a problem, but doesn't say a word. Knowing they can't use the meat anymore, Megumi is really sad. She knows how long it takes to prep another beef, and they don't have much time left. While she is sulking, Suma brings more ingredients and starts cooking again. Megumi snaps out of it and helps him. It doesn't take long before they bring their dish up for evaluation, shocking everyone. Roland is surprised by how tender the meat is when he presses it with his fork. He knows they had an accident, so he asks asks how they managed to finish so quickly. Suma explains that they used honey and walks him through the entire process. Megumi asks how he knew honey would work, and Suma tells her he read something similar in a book a long time ago, then experimented with different ingredients until he found that honey worked as well. Roland and Megumi both take a bite, and it's really good. Roland actually smiles. To the surprise of all the students, world peace almost happened. He gives them an A, saying he wishes he could give them a higher grade. Meanwhile, the dudes who sabotaged their meal get too distracted by everything going on. By the time they realize it, their sauce is burnt, and in the panic, the salt container slips from one guy's hand and dumps into the dish, completely ruining it. Karma was waiting nearby. When they present it for evaluation, they fail. In another class, Takumi and his brother Isami earn an A rating for their dish, as usual. Still, Takumi wishes he were in the same class as Suma so he could beat him. Back in class, Megumi thanks Suma for his help, and he tells her he is looking forward to working with her from now on. She thinks to herself that maybe it wasn't such a bad idea to be paired with Suma after all. Suddenly, Suma tells Megumi he wants her to try his new recipe. Feeling honored, she quickly agrees, only to be violated by his disgusting squid dipped in honey dish. Meanwhile, Hisako meets Irina in the hallway and informs her about Suma's performance in Roland's class. Irina is super upset. She unlocks her evil aura and tells Hisako never to speak Suma's name in her presence again. She now sees him as an abomination that has invaded her sacred shrine and is determined to get rid of him soon. Meanwhile, Suma is still trying to violate Megumi with even more disgusting recipes. Later, Suma tries to find his way to his dorm. He is pretty exhausted because the school is so big. At some point, his paper slips out of his hands and he doesn't even notice this. After passing a ton of fancy buildings, he eventually arrives at his dorm, Polar Star, which straight up looks like a haunted house. The inside is no different because as soon as he enters, weird things start happening. Dark smoke fills the place. There is an earthquake-type shaking, and to top it all off, animals come running out of nowhere with a guy chasing after them. Then a voice comes through the speakers, scolding the perpetrators and telling them to do better. Soon after, Suma meets the caretaker, Fumio. She looks scary as fudge. She asks what ingredients he brought, but Suma is confused. Fumio explains that anyone who wants to live in Polar Star must pass a cooking challenge, and the caretaker serves as the examiner. This is news to Suma, since he lost the paper where all these instructions were written. This is why you always read the terms and conditions. Fumio decides to fail him by default, since the test is mandatory to live there. She adds that the only ingredients left in the kitchen are scraps, so he is very unlucky. But Suma decides to take on the challenge anyway, asking if he can use the leftovers. Fumio leads him to the kitchen, and Suma immediately gets to work, throwing together everything that's left. After a while, he presents Fumio with a mouth-watering dish. She is shocked by the meat-looking food, knowing full well there was no meat left. But Suma, being the substitute king, explains that he used canned mackerel instead. He then goes on to explain the entire process. Fumio doubts it will taste any good, but is literally stunned the moment she takes a bite. She also tries the side dishes and they taste just as good. Suma explains how he prepared those too. Fumio keeps eating and is reminded of her younger days when she had Riz and didn't look like a low-budget rock star. One bite sent her time traveling back to her glow-up era. Meanwhile, Megumi is taking a bath, still trying to recover from the PTSD Suma gave her. Back in the kitchen, Fumio finally accepts Suma and hands him the key to his room. As he runs off, she feels proud to have someone like him staying in her dorm. Meanwhile, Megumi is just chilling and enjoying her bath when Suma suddenly barges in, excited to take one himself. Seeing her makes him freeze on the spot, even though he is buck naked, before Megumi immediately lets out a scream. The poor girl really got traumatized by the same person twice. After Suma's bath, he finally gets to rest, and that's when thoughts of home hit him. He realizes it's the first time he has ever left home and starts reminiscing about his time at the restaurant. It feels a bit too quiet for him, and while he is still lost in thought, a dude pops out from the ceiling and invites him to join them for a welcome party. Everyone is gathered in Zenji's room, but Zenji is not happy about it since they're interrupting his studying. The others basically tell him to suck it up because there is no changing their minds. This dorm has zero respect for introverts. Meanwhile, Megumi is still freaked out that Suma saw her in the bath. She remembers her mother's words, that a proper lady must not show skin to just anyone, and starts thinking she can't get married anymore because of this. Suma talks to her, casually commenting about how they ended up in the same room. Megumi is shocked that Suma passed the exam on his first try and tells him no one ever does. When Suma asks how she did back then, she gives a vague answer, not wanting to admit it took her 3 months. Ryuko pours Suma a drink, and he gets suspicious because it doesn't look like normal juice, plus the label is handwritten, until she tells him what it actually is. Suma then asks if they won't get in trouble for hosting a party, but Ryuko tells him it's fine. Fumio even calls out to them through the pipes and offers them snacks. Suma is surprised by how chill she is. Yuki advises the boys to come back quickly before Fumio starts talking about the Elite 10. Suma remembers Hisako mentioning the Elite 10 before, so he asks Yuki about it. The girls then pressure Zenji into explaining it. Bro switches to narrator mode and tells Suma that the council is a community that is made up of the 10 highest ranking students in the academy. They manage academy affairs and serve as the highest decision-making body. body, second only to the director. Yuki adds that in previous years, some Elite 10 members came from Polar Star Dormitory, and there was even a year when all 10 were from Polar Star. That is why Fumio just can't stop talking about it. Just then, the others return with food, and the guy who invited Suma introduces himself as Satoshi, a second-year student. Satoshi starts acting weird, giving some boring motivational speech about student life. When he finishes, Shoji tells him to stop talking to them from the attic whenever he needs them. Satoshi then decides to use the pipes instead, because whenever he calls Megumi through them, she always shows up. In Megumi's defense, it's creepy, and he doesn't stop calling if she ignores him. The others tell her that he will eventually stop if she doesn't respond. Soon after, everyone starts drinking and eventually gets drunk. On juice, by the way. They also eat different foods. Daigo and Shoji start quarrel fighting over whose food tastes better, throwing insults at each other. When Yuki tries to stop them, they turn on her and start dissing her and her animals instead. She excuses herself, saying she will be back to teach them the charms of her animals. Suma then offers them his disgusting squid dipped in honey dish. Shinji takes a bite and instantly regrets it, giving everyone a good laugh. Satoshi suddenly strips, giving everyone free entertainment. Fumio can hear their laughter through the pipes and it never gets old. Later, after everyone falls asleep, Satoshi prepares some food for Suma. When Suma takes a bite, he immediately loves it. Satoshi's bubbly mood suddenly darkens. He asks Suma if he is really aiming for the #1 spot and then reintroduces himself. He reveals that he is the 7th member of the Elite 10. Plot twist. He then tells Suma that he would like to taste his food. Suma is surprised by this new revelation, but he finally understands why his father sent him to the academy. He accepts Satoshi's challenge but first asks whether Satoshi's family runs a Japanese restaurant, since the food he prepared is a common Japanese dish. When he tastes it again, he can tell what Satoshi used to prepare the dish. Suma decides to cook using the same fish Satoshi used and gets straight to work. Not long after, Yuki and Ryoko wake up and are confused about why Suma is cooking at this time. Shun, who was awake the whole time, informs them about the cook-off. He doesn't know much about it, only that it was Satoshi's idea. The others understand that they shouldn't interfere. Just then, Suma finishes the dish and serves it. It's a tea over mackerel rice ball. The food looks mid to Satoshi, but he still decides to give it a try, and it turns out to be really delicious. The others take a bite too and are impressed. Satoshi then mentions the method of cooking Suma used, and Suma himself is confused, causing Yuki to crash out. What do you mean you don't know the method you used to cook? When Satoshi asks how he learned the method, Suma reveals that it was from his father. Satoshi then asks how Suma's father knew the method, and Suma doesn't know, but adds that his dad probably went around cooking in different countries. Satoshi is really impressed by Suma's cooking skills. Everyone finishes their plate like it's a competition because of how good it is. Satoshi compliments Suma, and Suma does the same, and they shake hands as Satoshi thanks him for the match. Megumi wakes up at this point and sees the scene, which looks super weird to her. Later, Yugi and Ryuko wake the others, and they all return to their rooms. Shun stays back in the hallway and overhears Satoshi and Suma's conversation, where Satoshi officially welcomes Suma to Polar Star Dormitory and tells him to feel free to ask him any questions if he ever has any. Suma immediately hit him with the question of how to join the Elite 10. Satoshi is shocked, but regains his composure before turning to Suma. He asks if there is a specific reason Suma is aiming for the top spot, and Suma says it's because of the competition with his dad, adding that he would have to pull something major to earn his respect. Suma also says that their match earlier was a draw, and asks if beating Satoshi would make him the 7th best in the academy. Satoshi lets out a small smirk before going fully goofy and congratulating Suma for being so ambitious. Shun then enters his room. Suma cuts off Satoshi's goofy moment and tells him he would like to retire to bed. Satoshi agrees, but thinks to himself that soon, Suma will realize the weight of what he said about becoming #1 in the academy. When Suma lies in bed, he thinks back on all his encounters with Arena. The next morning, everyone wakes up tired, and it's even worse for Zenji since no one helped him clean up the mess from the previous day. He decides to go scold them, but ends up tripping on a bottle. When everyone arrives at the dining room, Suma is sitting in the middle of the room and challenges Satoshi to a cook-off for the 7th position in the Elite 10. There is an awkward silence, and everyone except Megumi and Satoshi proceeds to the dining table, ignoring him like a group chat message at 3 a.m. They call out for Fumio to serve breakfast already. Suma is confused by everyone's reaction, so Satoshi decides to help him out and explain how challenges work at the academy. At the same time, Arena is having a cook-off with a Majin Buu type looking dude named Kiyoshi, a second-year student from another school. He asks what Arena plans to do with their club building if she wins, and she responds that she is going to take it over and turn it into a kitchen wing. Kiyoshi is pissed by this response, since the building holds a lot of history for them. His schoolmates are also mad and cheer him on to defeat Arena. Arena disses him, saying that over the past few years, Kiyoshi's school has accomplished little, and that their school only boasts about past glory, which is of no value to Totsuki. Kiyoshi's beef with Arena is that she abuses her power, so he can no longer turn a blind eye. He tells her that if he wins, Arena has to leave the Elite 10. Meanwhile, Satoshi tells Suma that there is a policy for settling beef among students in the academy, and there are rules too. If Suma wants to challenge him for the 7th seat, he needs to have something of equal value. Satoshi adds that even expulsion wouldn't be enough. Suma is shocked, but Fumio confirms it, explaining that a spot in the Elite 10 is worth more than that since they are the highest decision-making body in the academy, and not even instructors can oppose their decisions. Satoshi says he could go through with the cook-off, but he doesn't want Suma to leave the academy. Suma is disappointed, and the others think it's strange and stupid that he is aiming for the 7th seat. Satoshi continues schooling him, explaining that 3 things are needed for a cook-off: an official certification showing a formal challenge, an odd number of judges, and an agreement between both contestants about the terms of the competition. Suma realizes how much work it involves, but Satoshi adds that if all conditions are met, he can challenge anyone in the academy. Meanwhile, back at the cooking battle, the final decision is announced, and Arena wins, as usual. Kyoshi refuses to accept it, wondering how his academy's traditional food could fall short. Arena tastes his dish, and it feels like she went sea diving, and then when she came out, had to wait for a bunch of hippos to pass. Bro is tasting a whole storyline. She points out all the shortcomings in his dish, but he refuses to accept it, questioning how Arena's food could taste better. This guy is in pure denial, even though his dish looks like lobsters drowning. He tastes Arena's food, and it's like a literal slap to the face. He ends up eating everything while getting the feeling of being beaten and utterly disgraced. Arena makes a call to the construction workers and orders immediate demolition of the building. She stands there aura farming for a bit while the crowd cheers. As Suma and Megumi are heading out to class, Suma expresses his disappointment over what he learned during breakfast. He reveals that he wanted to challenge Arena too, and Megumi tells him there is no way he would win. Meanwhile, Satoshi watches them from above, looking forward to Suma's future and hoping he racks up a solid cook-off record. After all, Suma managed to draw in their mini competition. He tells this to Shun, though Shun knows Satoshi went easy on Suma with that dish. Satoshi plays dumb and claims he gave it his all, but Shun knows him too well. Satoshi then thinks to himself that from the moment he tasted Suma's dish, he realized Suma is the kind of rookie who would start a new era of cooking battles at the academy. Later in the hallway, Hisako praises Erina for her victory, but Erina brushes it off, saying it's hardly praiseworthy. She then asks for the next targets and receives a list. Another student waiting in the hallway asks to take on the next target. It's Ikumi. She feels that Erina should not deal with trash personally. Erina agrees but warns her that there will be consequences if she fails. Ikumi, however, is confident in her skills. Suma is woken up by Satoshi's voice coming through the pipes asking for help. Suma tells him that he still feels tired from staying awake all night, so Satoshi should ask someone else for help, only for Satoshi to suddenly pop up from the attic. Suma has no choice but to wake up. He walks out of the dorm with Yuki, who tells him that they will be harvesting veggies from the backyard garden. Suma is impressed that they grow their own produce. They pass by Shun, who is doing some woodworking, and Yuki explains that he's preparing the wood he uses for smoking. She also tells him that Ryuko specializes in dishes using rice malt, so she has her own workspace for fermentation. Yuki then shows Suma her mini poultry farm, and they finally arrive at the vegetable field, which Satoshi is in charge of. Suma sees Satoshi working with barely any clothes on. When Satoshi approaches them, he explains that knowing how food grows is part of their training. Megumi also shows up with some things she harvested, and Satoshi offers Suma a tomato. When Suma takes a bite, it's insanely sweet and he loves it. If veggies tasted like this, kids wouldn't need to be lied to. Kyoko and Shun show up a bit later, and they all get to work. When it's time for breakfast, Megumi invites everyone to eat, and she serves rice balls. As usual, they savor the meal while also discussing how it was prepared. After eating, Satoshi compares Megumi's food to comfort food that soothes everyone's souls. Soma then asks why she can't cook like this in class. Megumi explains that she gets nervous during lessons and blanks out, and Soma advises her to relax more when she cooks. Ah yes, just relax. The solution to anxiety since 1800. Meanwhile, Zenji, Shoji, and Daigo are completely passed out from all the fun they had the previous night. Back outside, Yuki tells Suma about the different clubs the school has. When they finally get to school, Megumi shows Suma the various research clubs so he can choose one. Suma decides to check out the Donberry Research Society, but when he arrives, he is met with the sight of a depressed guy sitting alone in the middle of the room. When Kenichi notices them, he advises them to leave, saying the club is about to become history. He introduces himself as a second-year student and explains that he couldn't save Don RS. Megumi finds a recipe book and hands it to Suma to check out. Suma finds some pretty decent dishes and wonders why the club is shutting down. Touched that at least someone understands, Kenichi explains what their problem is. The reason the club is at its lowest point is Erina. Kenichi explains her technique. She first suggests that the council cut down the budget or the allocated space of a group she doesn't like, then forces them into voting her way. Once the group is cornered, she offers them one option, a cooking battle. That is the same way she dealt with the Majin Buu-looking dude. Kenichi adds that once his members heard their opponent would be one of Erina's underdogs, they all ran away. Just then, contractors enter the room with Ikumi, discussing how to renovate the place. Ikumi is confident in her ability to win the competition. She is a first-year student, but she easily intimidates Kenichi. She even goes as far as cutting off his hair when he gets her name wrong. Since Suma doesn't know her, Megumi explains that Ikumi is known as the Meat Master because ever since junior high, she has always received high ratings and has never gotten anything lower than an A for meat dishes. Ikumi continues bullying Kenichi until Suma steps in. He asks to take on the cooking battle instead. His competence makes Ikumi recognize him from the opening ceremony, and she admits that she has been wanting to talk to him. Soma brushes that off and suggests they compete on her turf with a meat dish. Ikumi gives Soma a condition. If she wins, he has to leave the school. Soma accepts, but adds that if he wins, Ikumi will have to join the Don RS. This quickly went from club beef to actual beef. Everyone is shocked by this request, but Ikumi remains confident and tells the contractors to leave. After they are gone, she decides to be fair and informs Suma that the main ingredient will be meat, but it has to be a Don dish. When she leaves, Kenichi is basically questioning all his life choices, probably regretting letting these two brats into the club. Soma calmly explains that he was annoyed by her cocky attitude and that he thinks the club is too good to let go to waste. Megumi asks how he plans to beat her, but Suma admits he doesn't have a plan yet. After completely crashing out, Megumi helps Kenichi fix his hair with duct tape. Later that evening, the news has already made it to the Academy magazine, and Yuki is really upset at Suma. Ryuko tries to calm her down, while Megumi promises to help Suma in any way she can. 2 days before the battle, Kenichi comes up with a strategy. Since Ikumi's specialty is meat, especially beef, he suggests they do not use beef too, and try to differentiate themselves from Ikumi as much as possible. He warns that if Ikumi uses her A5 beef, they are done for. Suma, being the confused idiot that he is, doesn't understand, so Kenichi explains that it is basically the highest grade of beef you can get. Kenichi admits that he once ate Ikumi's beef at an academy event and says you could practically drink it because of how tender it was. He also explains that any ingredient used in the battle has to be prepared by the chef themselves, and Ikumi's family happens to run a beef factory, which contributes to her premium quality cooking. Megumi worries that they won't be able to beat Ikumi's cooking, but Suma suddenly suggests they use beef as well. Bro really thinks he can defeat the game master at her own game. Kenichi initially thinks Suma is crazy, but Suma manages to convince them both. He suggests they go shopping, but the Don RS budget is non-existent, so Suma decides to use his personal funds, only to realize he is broke too. When they return to the club room, Kenichi has gathered a bunch of Don RS recipes from the past, and Suma immediately starts cooking. When he serves the dish, Kenichi takes a bite and loves it, but it's not good enough. So Suma tries again and again and again. Even into the next day, he keeps cooking non-stop until Kenichi can't take it anymore and completely collapses. Megumi has to dump a bucket of water on him to revive him. By evening, they are all exhausted. Suma has tried every recipe, but nothing feels right. Megumi suggests he get some sleep, hoping he might get some sort of inspiration. And just like that, Suma suddenly gets an idea and thanks Megumi for it. He tells Kenichi he will need a steak, and after it's provided, he prepares a dish for them. Kenichi recognizes it as chaliapine steak, the same dish an opera singer ate in Japan when he had a toothache. When they both try it, it tastes just as good as it looks and is tender too. Still, Kenichi wonders if it will be enough to surpass Ikumi's A5 beef. Meanwhile, Ikumi informs Irina of the ingredients she plans to use, including her A5 beef, and Irina has high hopes, thinking this might finally be her chance to kick Suma out. A lot of people at the school are talking about the competition. Kenichi provides Suma with all the ingredients he requested, but then asks if Suma got any sleep. Turns out he didn't, since he stayed up all night tweaking the sauce a bit. Meanwhile, Megumi is really nervous about the challenge as students are already seated. She rushes back to Suma and nervously tells him not to be nervous, but Suma is calm and compares it to serving customers. Urara is hosting the event, and she has a lot of fanboys. She introduces the first contestant, and Ikumi comes on stage, causing Urara's fanboys to fold in real time. Loyalty? Never heard of her. This has Urara pissed behind the scenes. Urara then introduces Suma, who comes out to face a lot of hate from the crowd, but he couldn't care less. Kenichi is surprised by the huge crowd, because when he had a cooking battle, there was no host, and only stray dogs showed up, attracted by the smell of food. Urara explains the terms of the challenge. If Ikumi wins, Don RS will be shut down, and Suma will be expelled. But if Suma wins, Don RS's budget will be increased, the facilities improved, and Ikumi will have to join the club. Ikumi then tells Suma to say whatever he wants to say to her. Since that day would be the last time he could talk to her, Suma simply ties his headband, turns away, and says they can talk anytime they want. Aura. For Aura, Irina arrives to watch the competition, and everyone is shocked that she is present since it's just a small battle. Meanwhile, Irina is actually there to witness Suma fail. When Ikumi sees Irina, she feels like she has to win for sure, assuming Irina came for her. The battle begins, and they each face their stations. Ikumi brings out her A5 beef and cuts the meat with so much precision, earning amazed looks from the crowd. Ikumi handles the meat with a lot of care, thinking to herself that she will prepare the finest dish. She begins cooking, and the aroma quickly fills the room. After that, that, she puts the meat in the oven and, while waiting, turns to check on Suma, only to realize he is just cutting onions. The crowd shifts focus to Suma as he takes out his meat, eager to see what could possibly compare to Ikumi's A5 beef, only for Suma to pull out cheap, convenience store-bought meat. Even his friends are disappointed at this point, and the crowd gets mad and starts throwing things at him. Ikumi tells him to use the rest of the time to pack up as she returns to her food. Ikumi's meat is done at this point, and she starts slicing it, while Irina proudly analyzes her cooking to Asako, comparing it to a piano soloist performing. Calling it a piano solo is crazy glazing. Suma, on the other hand, is quietly frying his massive portion of onions. Ikumi turns to him and asks what he is doing, but he ignores her. She pushes him to respond, but Suma says he would rather let his food do the talking, adding that any chef who talks too much in the kitchen can't be trusted to have real talent. Ikumi is pissed and quietly returns to her side of the stage. The timer is almost out, keeping everyone on edge. When time finally runs out, judging begins immediately. Ikumi goes first and presents her eye-catching dish. She explains the dish and the judges already love it. They dig in, and it doesn't disappoint. Her meat is clearly the main character, and the judges can tell. They all have good reviews about the food, and the crowd already thinks Ikumi has won. Suma presents his food next, and the judges already assume it's going to be mid-stuff, especially when Suma calls it chaplain steak. Suma serves the dish, and once the judges take a bite, they immediately start rushing through it. It is way too good, and they can't stop. Before long, their plates are completely empty. Ikumi looks over at hers and notices there is still rice left in it. Suma points out that she flopped with the rice because she focused too much on the meat, while Dawn is supposed to be a complete package in one plate. Ikumi shuts him down, saying his cheap meat can't compare to hers, so Suma offers her his dish to try. Once she takes a bite, she also can't stop eating, and the Dawn truly speaks to her. She remembers her childhood when her mother gifted her a teddy bear, only for it to be ripped apart by her father because he didn't want his heir to be ladylike. Ikumi then starts crying. The food activated her trauma. In the end, all the judges vote for Suma, making him the winner. Kenichi is extremely proud, and all Suma's friends are happy too. Ikumi looks up at Irina, who silently leaves. Suma approaches Ikumi and says he looks forward to seeing her in the club, but she runs away instead. Kenichi then goes up to Suma and tells him that he is going to be the next Don of Don RS, and his friends cheer. The next day, Ikumi shows up at Don RS. She notices that Suma is not in the room, and that's when Kenichi informs her that Suma refused to join, saying he just wanted to check the place out. Kenichi then tells Ikumi that they should work hard together, and that she will be the next Don of Don RS, but she completely flips out on him. Training camp season is here. The Polar Star dormitory tells Suma about the nightmare called camp. It's basically the first circle of hell for new high school students. Yuki explains that all first-year students will be tasked with severe cooking projects every day, and the location is a remote area in the mountains. She adds that if they don't get a passing score, they will be expelled immediately. The manual looks super friendly and claims it is an opportunity to strengthen their bonds, but in reality, it's an evil, merciless evaluation meant to weed out the weak. Megumi is really panicking. Satoshi informs them that the camp is where the selection process of who stays in the school really begins. From his experience last year when he attended the camp, a lot of students were expelled and sent home every day. Megumi passes out at this point. Before she goes, she thanks everyone for the time they have spent together. Drama queen. Yuki, being a paid actor, cries for her. Soma, on the other hand, is looking at fun activities they can try out at the camp, which causes Yuki to almost bite his head off while scolding him. Soma casually tells her that they all just have to be in the half that will pass, and Satoshi seconds this. He believes that everyone in Polar Star will come back smiling. Please don't jinx it. However, this gives them some motivation and they are more determined to pass. Hisako, on the other hand, is giving an overview of Arena's activities at the camp. Everyone then goes about their typical day, attending classes and also remembering to pack their bags. And Megumi, of course, has to get some luck. On the first day of camp, there are a lot of buses set to transport the students to their end maybe. Soma is the only one who is hyped. I mean, he's got plot armor, everyone gets on their respective buses, and the journey begins. When they arrive at the campsite, the building looks like they are there for a vacation instead, and Suma realizes that Totsuki isn't just a school, but a really big franchise. As soon as they drop off their bags, they head to assembly, where other students are waiting. It's all quiet, as everyone feels attention, everyone but Suma, who uses that time to socialize, loudly calling out Ikumi. Because of that, he drags attention of everyone to himself. Ikumi tells him to be careful, because no one really likes him. Just then, Roland comes up to address the students. He informs them that they will stay at camp for 6 days and 5 nights, and during this time, they will be split into several groups and take on a new assignment each day. He calls out some guest lecturers who will be in charge of their evaluation, and they are Totsuki alumni. Everyone is surprised and panicked. After all, these are all geniuses who managed to graduate from the school. One of the graduates, Kujiro, points to a guy in the crowd and immediately expels him. His reason is that the boy's hair product has a citrus scent, and it interferes with the aroma of the food, saying a chef should pay attention to their sense of style. The boy tries protesting, but Kujiro becomes fierce and still stands by his decision. The alumni are top people in the culinary industry who are featured in magazines every month. Megumi is also a approached by an alumnus, Gotuda, but Bro is trying to riz her. Thankfully, Hinako comes to her rescue, but also tries rizzing Megumi, except she sees her as food. Roland gives them a death glare, and they return to the stage. Zenji suddenly recognizes an alumnus, the one who graduated top of his class after getting the highest score ever on the graduation exams. He even turned down a lot of offers from high-caliber restaurants around the world, and instead became the executive chef and company director of Totsuki Resorts. His name is Jin. Jin addresses the students, informing them that all the alumni gathered there are chefs who own their own restaurants, and for the next 6 days at camp, the students will be treated the same way the alumni would treat their own staff. Those who cannot meet up to that expectation will be expelled. With that, he dismisses the students and tells them to partner up. The training starts, and Group F is being led by Hinako. Luckily for Megumi, she is paired with Suma again. However, Suma is approached by Takumi, who intentionally steps on him. Takumi is glad he got to be in the same class as Suma so he can crush him, but all Suma cares about is that Takumi unlegs him. Hinako calls the attention of the class and tells them they should feel free to ask her any questions they might have while she sits there snacking. A student reminds Hinako that she didn't give them any instructions for their task. Hinako points at an empty table by the window and tells them to use that to make any main Japanese dish. Everyone is confused, but she clarifies that she means outside, pointing out that since they are in a natural environment, there should be a surplus of ingredients they can find. She shows them a cabinet filled with spices they can use and also informs them about some tools available that they can use to get more ingredients from outside. However, she warns that they cannot go past the fence around the property or else they will be disqualified. Hinako immediately concludes her speech, and since they are on a 2-hour timer, everyone quickly begins planning with their teammates what dish to prepare before hurrying out. Before Suma leaves, Takumi challenges him to a cook-off, saying they should find out who is better between the two of them. He then asks Hinako to judge the cook-off, but she plainly refuses, causing Suma and Hisami to mock him. Despite this, Takumi is still bent on proving that he is better than Suma while his brother drags him away. Everyone is busy trying to get ingredients, and so are Suma and Megumi, but Megumi is mostly panicking. She then suggests a few dishes they can prepare, but Suma wants to go for something no one would think of. He finally catches a fish, and they head back to class, but on the way, they run into the brothers, who also just got their ingredients. Except instead of the typical fish everyone is going for, they pick duck. Dude pulled up with a flamethrower to a water gun fight. He refers to everyone else as narrow-minded, since there were plenty of other animals to choose from, but no one thought that far. With that, the brothers begin cooking, and Megumi is captivated by their pro skills. It turns out the boys previously worked in their family restaurant in Italy. They eventually finish cooking and serve the dish to Hinako. Everyone is surprised at how quickly they finished. When Hinako tastes it, she loves it instantly. The boys explain their cooking process, and thanks to their exposure in Italy, they were able to create something amazing despite being in the mountains with scarce resources. Hinako evaluates the dish and passes them. 3 years ago in Florence, Italy, the twins worked in their family restaurant, Trattoria, helping their father out. Takumi even had a lot of girls trying to get his attention, but he was too busy cooking. Aldini, their father, despite seeing how hard they worked, told their uncle that Takumi lacked something. After they closed for the day, their uncle informed them about attending the culinary school. Takumi didn't see the need for this. After all, they had been working in the restaurant for years. Takumi's uncle eventually convinces them to give it a try so they can become the best chefs they can be. Aldini knew that all Takumi needed was a worthy rival. Throughout Takumi's stay at the school, he was determined not to lose to any of the chefs there, as he felt he was better than all of them. And he in fact was, until Suma showed up and gave that messed up speech during the assembly, which completely pissed him off. After his evaluation, Takumi turns to Suma and asks what he is going to prepare. Hinako also decides to judge their mini competition and tell them which dish is better. She adds her condition: whoever loses must kneel before the winner and say, "I am a loser," 3 times. Imagine losing both a competition and aura points, and having to verbally confirm it 3 times. That's psychological warfare. However, she tells Megumi that she doesn't have to participate in that part. Takumi dares Suma to make a dish that is better than theirs, and Suma accepts the challenge. He begins by analyzing their dish first and wonders what he can make using the available resources that would beat theirs. After thinking for a while, an idea suddenly comes to his head, and he writes down a list of ingredients for Megumi to get. Megumi takes the list and is confident she can find the ingredients, since she usually gathers ingredients from the mountains back home. Suma tells her that there is something else he has to get outside, but before that, he goes to Hinako and confirms that they can use anything as long as it is within the fence. Hinako agrees, and Suma takes her snacks away from her as his main ingredient. Since he is stepping out again, he gives the snacks to Takumi to hold on to. Meanwhile, Hinako is still sulking about her snacks. Megumi finds all the ingredients on the list while Suma struggles with some chickens and eventually takes their eggs. At this point, Hinako has failed a couple of people or asked them to redo their dishes, and only a few students have passed. Hinako announces that most of the food she has eaten so far has been fish-based, so she is looking looking for something different. However, everyone feels this is a huge ask since they are in the middle of nowhere. Hinako adds that they should keep making new dishes as long as their time is not up. Meanwhile, Takumi patiently waits for Suma to show up, worried that he might run out of time. Isami thinks it is a good thing since they would automatically become the winners, but Takumi doesn't want it that way. He wants to win fair and square. Just then, Suma and Megumi arrive. Takumi gets angry that Suma took too long and ends up squeezing the snacks. He apologizes to Suma, saying it wasn't on purpose, as he doesn't want Suma to think he did it to ruin his chances of winning. Suma tells him that he actually helped him out and saved him some time. Accidental sabotage that somehow buffs the enemy. With about 15 minutes left, Suma gets to work while also instructing Megumi on what to do. After a while of trying to figure out what Suma is cooking, Takumi eventually realizes what Suma plans to use the rice crackers for. When Suma finishes cooking, he finally serves the dish, and as Hinako takes a bite, she is impressed. Even though it is a fish-based meal, the texture and taste are completely different. She evaluates the ingredients and takes another bite, enjoying the food so much that she feels like she is in another realm. When Megumi asks where the idea came from, Suma tells her about okaki crackers, explaining that he simply found a substitute for them. Hinako compares Takumi's and Suma's dishes in her head, and since they both did well, she passes Suma and Megumi. After the class ends, Takumi asks Hinako to announce the results. She stalls for a bit, unable to choose between them. Just then, her phone buzzes, and she is scolded by Kujiro for not bringing everyone back already, as they have spent too much time. Hinako tells everyone to head back to the bus, but Suma and Takumi still want their evaluation. She tells them that she will think about it and then sprints off. Takumi refuses to let it go and tells Suma that someday he will challenge him to a cooking battle and crush him, so Suma should prepare himself. After trying to sound cool and all, like they are parting ways dramatically, he ends up sitting next to Suma on the bus and feels embarrassed while Isami mocks him. Takumi thinks back on his dish, which he put his all into, and despite Hinako not announcing a winner, he feels like he has lost. They are both amazed by each other's ability. It's just like they have met their match. When they return to the hotel, they meet up with Ryuko and Yuki, while Shun confirms that everyone from Polar Star Dormitory has passed the first round. Everyone is exhausted, and Yuki tells them to look forward to their reward of amazing food and a nice bed, only for them to be assigned another task. Some bodybuilders show up, and Hitoshi instructs the students to serve the muscle dudes 50 portions, and that will earn them free time. 50 servings each for bodybuilders is just crazy. He adds that some footballers and a couple of other dudes from the university nearby will be joining as well. Everyone is horrified. Yuki asks about dinner, but Hitoshi informs them that they can make theirs after they finish serving. He also adds that during their stay, they will be in charge of preparing their own breakfast and dinner. Finally, he adds that if they are unable to finish serving the guests within the next hour, they will be expelled. The moment he sets the timer, everyone rushes to start cooking. They are all going through absolute horror and torture, only for Yuki to finish quickly. Takumi is not pleased that Suma finished before him, as he still has 5 servings left. As Suma walks through the hallway looking bored, he comes across a general bath and suddenly gets the idea to bathe before the others finish. He heads there happily. Meanwhile, Irina is already taking a bath and humming to herself before finally getting up to leave. Unfortunately for both of them, as Suma turns the corner, they bump into each other. Suma apologizes but is shocked to see that it's Irina. You already know this is about to be awkward. Suma tries to make sure that she is okay, but she stops him from coming closer. She is not happy that he got to see her this way and hopes that he didn't hear her humming happily, but he did and comments that she seems to be in a good mood. Irina denies it. Suma tells her that, on the other hand, he is really excited because he brought cards and other stuff to play with. Irina tells him that she isn't like him, and even though she heard that the camp would be torture, she finds it to be a boring and pointless excursion. However, she thinks that seeing him expelled would make it fun for her. Suma doesn't believe her. Just then, Hisako arrives, sees Suma, and immediately enters a defensive mood trying to protect Irina. She questions why Suma is there, and his response ends up making it sound like he pushed down Irina, causing Hisako to misunderstand the whole incident. Irina is frustrated and asks him to get out, which he gladly does. Hisako then brings out the card game Irina requested, but Irina acts uninterested. Even though Hisako reminds her that she requested it in the lobby, Irina still denies it. When Suma gets to the bath, he sees Jin already there. Soma finds him scary, but before long, they get along surprisingly well. Dude looks like the final boss, but acts like the chill uncle. Jin tells him that he usually tries to bathe before any students show up, and he does this every year. However, last year, a student finished just as quickly as Suma, and that student is now the 7th seat in the Elite 10. It then clicks for Suma that Irina also finished earlier than he did. At the front desk, Hisako is returning the cards, and Irina considers stopping her because she still wants to play, but her ego is too big to call Hisako back, especially since Soma also said he had cards to play with. Jin and Suma discuss Irina, and Jin tells Suma stories about her god tongue. At a young age, she could differentiate the salts and tell where they were from. He also gives Suma some advice about the academy. As soon as he finishes, Takumi barges in, telling Suma that he may have finished before him this time, but he won't let it happen again, only only to realize Jin is with him. Jin excuses himself, but before leaving tells Suma that camp is just the beginning and that he should take care of his physical body. He finally shakes hands with Suma, wishing him good luck. As Jin walks out, Takumi rushes to Suma and chews his ear off, talking about how high Jin is for Suma to casually shake hands with him. Jin overhears Takumi call Suma by his family name, and it seems really familiar to him. After the girls are done, they also take a bath. Later, everyone gathers in Zenji's room. He is so stressed that he looks like a zombie, but no one really cares. The boys arrive too, with cards and drinks, and they eventually fall asleep while playing. The others who are still awake do their own thing. Ryuko asks if Megumi isn't sleepy, and she isn't, which is unlike her. She then starts getting sentimental, talking about how happy she is to have successfully supported Suma without feeling as nervous as usual. Everyone is happy for her and encourages her to do even better. They all have fun, and the night ends with Megumi determined to try her best. The next morning, Suma and Megumi are in Kujiru's class. For their task, they are to prepare a dish of Kujiru's choosing. Everyone is scared of him because he already expelled 30 students the previous day. Kujiru assigns them a recipe he came up with. The dish consists mostly of vegetables, which must be prepared at their own required times without any one ingredient's taste overpowering another. He also adds that everyone will be working independently and that no one is allowed to help anyone else. There is a pile of ingredients at the back of the class and each person must choose from there. He concludes by telling them to think of everyone else as their enemies. He starts the timer and tells them to begin. Everyone rushes to the back of the class to get ingredients, like it's Black Friday, and Megumi can't even find her way through the crowd. She gets pushed down and almost gives up, but remembers she is on her own, so she gets up and struggles to gather ingredients for herself. After getting almost everything, she realizes she only needs cauliflower, but by then, everyone else has already started cooking. Megumi notices that all the remaining cauliflowers have slight discoloration. She knows that if she cooks them as they are, the discoloration will become more obvious and the dish will look strange. She thinks about what to do and instinctively calls out to Suma, but then remembers the rules, forcing her to figure something out herself. After thinking for a while, Megumi finally comes up with an idea. Everyone is focused on their cooking until one student spots another doing something wrong and points it out to him. Kujiru catches them and reminds them of the rules. The boys plead for mercy, but he expels them anyway. As they leave, everyone resumes cooking with even more fear. Jin is watching as well, but from the shadows. In other classes, students are also cooking, and it is a tense moment as many people fail or are forced to retry. Back in Kujiru's class, those who finish step forward for evaluation. The first guy fails and he begs for an opportunity to try again, but Kujiru points out that all the ingredients are finished and there is nothing that can be done. Most of them are failed the same way. Like her, it's Kujiru's love language until it finally becomes Suma's turn, and as usual, he passes. When Suma returns to his station, he looks over at Megumi, who is clearly giving it her all. Soon after, she finishes and presents her dish for evaluation. Kujiru takes a bite, savors it for a moment, and then expels her, shocking Megumi. Bro enjoyed the food, then said, "Pack your bags." He ends the session as she is the last student. As he's about to leave, Megumi asks why her dish was rejected, and Kujiru explains that she used wine to boil the cauliflower to preserve its color. While the wine goes well with the vegetables, he fails her because he never said they were allowed to change the recipe. As he concludes and prepares to leave, Soma stops him. He defends Megumi, saying the situation was unavoidable since the ingredients were in poor condition, and he blames Kujiru for not providing fresh produce. Kujiru, now angry, explains that the low-quality cauliflower was intentional and part of the test, so that only a limited number of students would pass. Suma responds that this is exactly why Megumi tried to compensate by being creative. Kujiru becomes furious and threatens to expel Suma as well if he continues. Megumi holds Suma back, not wanting him to fail because of her, and insists that she is fine. However, Suma remembers how excited she always is, pulls his hand away from hers, and steps forward, stopping Kujiru again. He asks whether the academy rules also apply to alumni, and when Kujiru agrees, Soma challenges him to a cooking battle, stating that if he wins, Kujiru must cancel Megumi's expulsion. The other students feel Suma is crazy for going against a former member of the Elite 10. Kujiru tells him that the only similarity in a cooking battle with someone who is not a student is that the other party has to accept, but he has no intention of accepting the challenge. He is about to finalize Megumi's expulsion when Jin interrupts. He takes them to his office, and they explain the situation to him. Jin and Hanako both taste the dish and see nothing wrong with it. Hinako even tries persuading Kujiru to let Megumi pass, but she's being annoying about it and he hits her away. Jin also feels like Megumi should have some credit since she tried to remedy the situation. Kujiru refuses, so Jin has no other choice but to approve the unofficial cooking battle, saying he will oversee it. Since they can't let it interfere with the camp, he tells them it will be held after the afternoon classes. Kujiru wants to argue, but Jin's scary stare forces him to agree. He also agrees with Suma's conditions, but before he leaves, he also adds that if Suma loses, he would also be expelled along with her. Jin instructs them to come to the annex basement later for the competition. While returning to class, Megumi is very sad. She scolds Suma for standing up for her and suggesting the competition. She ends up crying, and Suma is not even scared and makes a joke about her accent. He helps her up, and Megumi is sad that he is always the one helping her out, and she doesn't know how to make it up to him. Suma tells her that she doesn't need to, as it was all his decision. He also adds that she is not meant to drop out here. Meanwhile, the others are concerned about Megumi since they haven't heard from her and the afternoon session is already over. Zenji assumes that she failed, but Shun says he didn't see her name in the list of the people who failed. Yuki also notices that Suma is not with them too. They all have a bad feeling about this, knowing Suma a little too well. Meanwhile, Suma and Megumi meet with the alumni in the basement kitchen, and a few other alumni are there to judge. Jin tells them to use the remaining ingredients from that day to make any dish they like, but to use vegetables as the main ingredient. He gives them a time limit of 2 hours. Megumi thinks to herself that she is the reason for the challenge, so she can't let Suma get expelled because of her. So she agrees not to get in his way. Unfortunately for her, Jin gives the last condition, and Megumi is supposed to be the main chef and Suma is to assist her. This is terrible for them, and Suma reminds Jin that it was he who called for the challenge. Jin tells him that if he eventually leads the competition and they end up winning and Megumi continues being his sidekick, she will eventually get kicked out again. So he should trust in her skills, since she needs that to prove that she can stay in the academy. Kujiro has already figured out what to cook and begins. Meanwhile, Megumi is still deciding. She is so nervous, and Kujiro calls her a half-wit. Megumi knows the kind of genius she is up against and becomes even more nervous. Suma tries talking to her, but Jin reminds him not to interfere in her recipe and to be an assistant and nothing more. Megumi is panicking more and thinks of herself as a failure. She's going through a spiral of thoughts and suddenly hears Suma's voice telling her to put her hands together. When she does, he slaps her hands together really hard. Everyone is confused, and Suma tells her that it's a skill he learned that helps you relax when you're nervous. Megumi is hurt, but she realizes that she has stopped shaking. Suma tells her to calm down and give it the best she has, regardless of what Kujiro is cooking. He motivates her a little more, reminds her of how nice her rice balls were, telling her to make her own food. Megumi is reminded of home. Kujiro's dish is already cooking while Megumi hasn't even started, and Kujiro calls her a half-wit again. But Suma tells him to taste her food first before insulting her. Just then, Megumi comes up to Suma to inform him that she has an idea of what she wants to cook. The other members of Polar Star are gathered in Zenji's room as Shoji tells them about the cooking battle news he heard from someone who was in Suma's morning session, and everyone is sad when they hear the full story. Back in the basement, Suma is on board with Megumi's idea, but she fears they might not have enough time to prepare the series of ingredients required. However, Suma tells her that he was an assistant in his family's diner, where it was just him and his dad, so she should trust him. And with that, they begin cooking. Suma is a really good assistant to Megumi and delivers the ingredients to her right when she needs them. The judges even notice that Suma is several steps ahead of her and provides support without neglecting his own tasks. They check his application form again and cannot believe that he learned all these skills by just helping out at home. Hitoshi comments that his skills pass that of any student. Finally, time is up, and Kujiro is to present his dish first. As Kujiro serves the judges, they first analyze the ingredients used in preparing the dish and the method used. It is obviously a foreign dish. When they taste the dish, it's so good that Hitoshi starts thinking of how the dish was prepared. Everything is flavorful, just as if Kujiro cast a spell on the dish. But that is not a surprise to them, since immediately after graduation, Kujiro moved to France and started his own restaurant and is super recognized and respected in the field. Jin tells Kujiro that he was expecting him to cook his signature dish, but Kujiro says his opponent is only a student, so he can't serve his signature dish. However, Jin clocks that Kujiro believes he can't possibly lose to a student. Next, it's Megumi and Suma's turn to serve, but Megumi is paranoid. She fears they might not like it, even though she poured her heart into it. Suma hits her in the back and tells her it will be okay and she shouldn't think much about it. Heeding Jin's request, Megumi serves her dish to the members of the alumni as well, then quietly waits for their remarks. They first analyze its unique appearance before taking a bite each. This puts Megumi on edge as her anxiety begins to creep in. She starts to remember her failures in the past, the way her colleagues looked down on her, and even the moment Kujiro decided to fire her. Considering what's at stake, being kicked out alongside Suma, who is only trying to help her, Megumi is terrified. However, after a brief moment of tasting Megumi's meal, the members of the alumni end up loving it. Each of them carefully analyzes its taste and ingredients, pointing out its qualities one by one. They are clearly impressed by the outcome of her dish. Their reactions come as both a surprise and a huge relief to Megumi. She never expected her meal to be praised this highly by the alumni she has always admired. It feels like presenting a theory you came up with to Einstein and having him be impressed by it. Overwhelmed with happiness, Megumi becomes emotional. Suma is happy for her, giving her a reassuring smile that tells her she's got this. But it's finally time for the judging, and the tension returns. Each judge is to cast a coin for the better meal. As the process begins, Megumi panics. For so long, her only goal had been to barely pass, just enough to survive and avoid being expelled. But now she has finally found her style and she wants to be more than that. Deep down, she admits that she wants to remain at the school, cooking and having fun with Suma and the others. She also doesn't want to let her family down. She prays silently, hoping that this isn't the end just yet. Unfortunately, the votes come in favor of Kujiro, and the gap isn't even close. It only goes to show how exceptional his dish was. The reality stings Megumi like a bee with anger issues. She failed, and it's a bitter truth to accept. Suma, however, blames himself, apologizing for not being able to help her enough. He tries to make her look on the bright side, telling her that her meal was great regardless and that she can at least hold her head high. But Megumi doesn't see it that way. He went out of his way to help her, and now, because of her, he'll be expelled too. That thought alone completely breaks her, and she apologizes through her tears. Kujiro wears a smug expression as he tells Megumi not to be depressed, pointing out that it was never really a competition to begin with. Just as he is about to leave, a coin is cast. To his surprise, Jin votes for Megumi. Kujiro mentions that it's pointless since the contest has already been decided and he has clearly won. He also points out that Jin isn't even one of the judges, but Jin simply says he wanted to acknowledge Megumi's dish. Confused, Kujiro wonders what could possibly be so special about Megumi's meal to deserve acknowledgement. Jin tosses a coin to him and tells him that the answer lies within the dish itself. He accuses Kujiro of being bored and stagnant. 10 years earlier, after graduating, Kujiro had decided to go to France. His goal was to hone his skills and open his own restaurants there. Among these ambitions, he was also determined to win the Pluspol Award. They were big dreams, but Kujiro somehow achieved them, though not without difficulty. Using the money he earned from cooking competitions during his student years, he traveled to France. After 6 years of training, he finally opened his own restaurant. However, his success was short-lived, as problems soon arose and everything began to fall apart. Kujiro drove away the staff members who betrayed him, eventually deciding that he could trust no one but himself. He began to see everyone else as an enemy. In doing so, he became stricter and more focused, and eventually, he achieved his long-awaited Pluspol Award. Jin asks Kujiro to admit that after achieving his lifelong dream, he was left without any goals, motivation, or drive. With nothing left to strive for, Jin concludes that Kujiro has not progressed since reaching the peak of his ambitions. He claims Kujiro avoided making his specialty dish out of fear that others would realize this truth. Enraged, Kujiro confronts Jin, saying he doesn't understand anything. Jin simply hands him Megumi's dish and asks him to try it. Kujiro hesitates at first but eventually gives in. On the first bite, he analyzes the dish critically, pointing out its flaws and mocking Jin's ability to taste food. But when he takes a second bite, the dish's true effect begins to surface. Kujiro is deeply moved. He realizes the dish was made by a chef who genuinely cares about her customers. He compares the feeling to a mother's love, as memories from his childhood flood his mind. Overcome with emotion, he casts his coin in Megumi's favor, bringing the votes close to a tie. Tears well up in his eyes. Turning to Megumi, he asks about the ingredients she used. She explains that she used a specific spice to make the dish easier to digest. Shyly, she admits that she considered the fact that the judges had been tasting multiple dishes throughout the day. She wanted to prepare something gentle on their stomachs. The alumni members are moved by Megumi's thoughtfulness. Jin points out that despite it being a competition, she still prioritized the people who would be eating her food. He advises Kujiro to remember this as he seeks a new path beyond the heights he has already reached. Kujiro finally accepts the truth. He admits that for a long time, he had ignored both his customers and his staff, cooking only for himself. At that moment, Hinako casts her coin for Megumi, resulting in a tie. With no clear winner or loser, both Suma and Megumi are allowed to remain at the school. Kujiro doesn't soften up or praise Megumi. He simply tells her to work hard if she wants to survive there. Before leaving, he acknowledges Suma. Jin commends Megumi for her warmth and hospitality toward her customers and advises her to continue improving that quality. Suma is relieved that they made it through, and as he congratulates Megumi, she breaks down in tears of happiness and relief. Jin walks alongside Hitoshi as they discuss. Jin explains that Kujiro became stuck after achieving his dreams because he was too focused on reaching them, abandoning everything else along the way. He believes that for chefs to continue growing, they must always hunger for knowledge, learning anything they can. He is confident that Kujiro will regain that hunger. In the end, the competition helped both Megumi and Kujiro. It is already late, and Megumi's phone is filled with missed calls and messages from worried friends. She hurries off, but before leaving, she stops to thank Suma for his help, promising never to forget it. After she's gone, Suma finally reveals his true feelings. He believes he lost and is frustrated by it. Jin watches him from afar, realizing that Suma was the only one who truly aimed to win the contest. Jin believes this is an important quality for a good chef to have. When Suma returns to his dorm, the others who had been worried welcome him back with relief. It's the third day of the camp, and Satoshi is worried about Suma and the others. He even had a bad dream about the return. They look so rough and different because of their time at camp that it seemed like they had just been released from prison. Satoshi wakes up relieved, realizing it was only a dream. He hopes they're doing fine over there. Meanwhile, at camp, the students are doing everything they can to pass their next task. Megumi fortunately manages to make it through and earns a pass, and Suma is happy for her. Still, he can't stop thinking about his failure to win against Kujiro in their earlier contest. Because of that, he pushes pushes himself even harder, trying to do better, feeling like he's still not good enough. Later on, Irina and Hisako run into another duo in the hallway, Alice and Ryu. As expected, they're rivals. Alice confidently states that she'll soon take Irina's top spot and advises her not to get too comfortable, since she won't remain number one forever. Irina responds casually and walks past her as egos from both parties clash like hockey. By the end of the day, Suma and the others return to the dorms completely exhausted. They're worn out and just want to collapse into bed. Just then, an announcement echoes through the halls. Jin instructs all students to assemble at the banquet hall in their uniforms within the next hour. It feels like being called back for extra lessons after an already long school day, and the mood drops instantly. Following the instructions, the students gather at the banquet hall later that night. There are far fewer students now, as most have already been expelled, and those who remain look like they've spent 3 sleepless nights fighting crime alongside Batman. Ikumi and Takumi rush over to Suma the moment they spot him. Clearly fired up, they scold him for doing something as reckless as challenging Kujiru, an alumni. They point out how dangerous that decision was, and Takumi adds that Suma doesn't have the right to get expelled before settling things between them. Surprised that they know about the contest, Suma asks how they found out. Ikumi and Takumi explain that the story has spread all over camp and everyone's talking about it. It suddenly hits them that Suma and Megumi still being at camp means they must have won. Both Ikumi and Takumi eagerly press for confirmation, but Suma admits that he blew it. Confused, they wonder why he's still there, though Suma refuses to explain further. At that moment, Jin steps onto the stage and begins explaining why everyone was assembled. He introduces the task for the following day. Each student is required to create a new breakfast menu, worthy of being served to the guest who will be coming around. Jin emphasizes how important breakfast is, explaining that it sets the tone for the rest of the day. The students are tasked with creating something impressive, using eggs as their main ingredient. He then drops the worst part of the announcement, the deadline. Judging will begin at 6 the next morning, meaning all dishes must be ready by then. The students are devastated. Despite their exhaustion, they now have to give up sleep to prepare something before morning. Takumi, seeing Suma as his rival, brags about the dish he plans to make, but immediately crashes out when Isami nearly blurts out its secrets. After Isami drags Takumi away, Suma approaches Irina to taunt her, reminding her of the entrance exams and how similar this task is, since both revolve around eggs. Irina snaps back, warning him not to repeat the same low-class dish if he hopes to pass. She grows even more pissed when Suma points out that she clearly enjoyed that so-called low-class dish. Irina protests, insisting she said it was disgusting. Hisako steps in to end the confrontation, informing Irina that she has secured a kitchen for them to work in. With that settled, Irina leaves. Yuki and Zenji are the most devastated among the group, but Yuki eventually locks in. Powering up like the Hulk, she encourages Zenji, who's completely drained of motivation. The students head to the kitchens, all working tirelessly to create a dish worthy of the next day's challenge. Irina, however, finishes quietly and early, which comes as no surprise given her skill level. Confident in her dish, she heads to bed, already looking forward to proving her superiority to Soma. The others continue working. Going to bed requires absolute confidence in one's dish, and that's hard to come by. Suma experiments with multiple ideas, and while each attempt turns out well, he still doesn't believe any of them are good enough. He knows he needs something unique, something perfect for the occasion. After some thought, an idea finally clicks. Around the same time, Takumi completes his dish and is full of energy and confidence. Megumi, on the other hand, struggles to even get started, panicking as she tries to come up with something. Remembering Jin's advice, she begins thinking about her customers. Since many people don't eat heavy breakfasts, Megumi decides to prepare something light. Despite their exhaustion, the students continue working late into the night. Suma's focus is broken when he notices Alice, a complete stranger to him, staring intently at his work. They exchange a few words before she leaves, but from her observation, she believes she understands what his dish will be. Having heard a lot about Suma, she still doesn't see what makes him so special. She's convinced he'll fail if he goes through with his plan. Morning finally arrives and the students gather in a large hall. By coincidence, Suma's station is right next to Irina's. Though she hates this, she sees it as the perfect opportunity to show off and prove her superiority. Suma calmly sets up his station, and from his ingredients, Irina quickly figures out what dish he's planning. Suma confirms her suspicion and explains his focus on the dish's texture. Once everyone is set, the test officially begins. The doors open and a crowd, the judges, rushes in. Jin explains that they are the people responsible for growing the ingredients used by the hotel. They've served as judges for a long time, and their evaluations are known to be accurate. Among them are 3 intimidating elderly men who look really strict. Jin explains that the criteria for passing are either creating a dish worthy of acknowledgement by professional staff or selling 200 servings within 2 hours. The judges begin sampling dishes that catch their interest. Megumi manages to attract the 3 strict-looking men to her station. To her relief, they absolutely love her dish and praise it. Ikumi draws in several customers as well, and seeing how much they enjoy her food, she's confident that completing 200 servings will be easy. Suddenly, Alice appears right in her face, clearly for no other reason than trying to provoke her before returning to her station. station. Ikumi notices that Alice's dish looks simple and that she hasn't attracted a single customer. Meanwhile, Irina's dish looks so good it almost seems unreal. A crowd gathers around her station in awe, eventually drawing the attention of a professional. After examining the dish, he recognizes it and initially doesn't find anything new or remarkable about it. But once he tastes it, his composure completely breaks as he realizes just how incredible it is. Before long, Irina finishes the task, completing all 200 servings. Hearing this, Takumi locks in and pushes himself harder. Both he and Megumi are close to finishing their tasks, but when they check on Suma, they realize he's barely managed to serve 10 dishes. Suma planned his dish well, but one thing he didn't prepare for was the possibility that it might not be eaten immediately. His dish loses its amazing texture over time, and since the customers are barely coming around his station since most of them are drawn to Irina's dish, Suma hasn't been able to succeed with his servings. Irina mocks Suma as she points out the flaws in his entire meal plan. She says he should have gone for something more visually appealing and longer lasting. She believes he's already done for and even suggests he use the little time he has left to appreciate her meal. The whole time, Suma remains quiet, looking downcast. The test is still ongoing, and the judges continue doing their jobs. Ikumi grows frustrated as she hasn't been able to complete 200 servings yet. This is mostly because of Alice's dish. Her spot initially seemed dry and her food looked boring to the eye, but once a judge tried it, there was an uproar. People at Ikumi's station began moving over to Alice's. The judges seemed to love her dish, and judging by the flow of customers, she might even surpass 300 servings. Takumi and Megumi finally complete the task successfully. They immediately look back to check on Suma, but there's still no improvement. Not everyone is fortunate enough to succeed with their dishes, and many of the students are still affected by the lack of sleep from preparing overnight. Soma takes a deep breath and recalls his time back at his father's diner. He had been tense back then too, but his father calmed him by spanking his hands. Yuichiro had advised Suma to stay calm whenever he panics in the kitchen, to analyze the situation, visualize what needs to be done, and work from there. Irina keeps talking, but Suma doesn't respond. At one point, she even wonders if he's fallen asleep. Suma analyzes the situation. He has only about 30 minutes left. After a brief pause, he gets back into action. Irina doesn't think it's possible, as Suma couldn't possibly complete 200 servings in under 30 minutes. Even Jin, watching from a distance, believes Suma's chances are slim. However, Suma's immediate goal is simply to win over the first customer. Luckily, a little girl's attention is drawn to his station, and he manages to convince her to try his freshly made dish. The texture is perfect, and the taste even more so. Soon, a few more customers join her. Irina fails to see the point. It's only a handful of customers after all. What difference could that make? The other students continue serving. Alice eventually runs out of ingredients and decides to call it quits after making over 380 servings. She rubs it in Akumi's face before finally taking her leave. As she walks away, she briefly wonders how Suma is holding up. Suma puts on a show as he cooks, keeping his customers engaged. He even manages to draw customers away from Irina's station. Jin explains that Suma's method is called live cooking. It involves preparing food in front of customers, building anticipation and excitement before they eat. Suma continues to showcase his skills, cooking live and delivering each dish perfectly. Jin is impressed. One by one, the important students finish their tasks as the clock ticks down. The tension builds as Suma struggles to keep up and finish on time. With only seconds left, the countdown feels like a bomb about to explode. Fortunately, Suma completes his 200th serving just before time runs out. Suma is relieved and rubs it in Irina's face. She snaps back at him, pointing out that there's nothing to be proud of since he barely made it. Alice, however, is impressed, admitting she didn't think he would even manage 8 servings. She mocks him nonetheless, saying he succeeded by putting on a circus act and going against the odds. Jin and the other officials are impressed by Suma's skills, but Irina still outperformed him, managing 400 servings. Alice remarks that Suma will never reach the top by relying on circus acts alone. After listing several things she believes he lacks, she declares herself superior to both of them, Soma and Irina. She then introduces herself to Soma, and only then does he realize she's Irina's cousin. Alice explains that she lived with Irina until she was 5. Without being asked, she gives Suma a brief history of her family. Her father founded a company specializing in cutting-edge food preparation techniques. She stayed there until she was 14, then transferred to the school with the intention of defeating Irina and claiming the top spot. As they talk, Ryo, who is often by Alice's side, joins them. Irina remains confident that her cooking would never lose to someone like Alice, who values modern spectacle above all else. This irritates Alice, and she points out that Irina has always been mean to her. Even as children, Irina would steal her toys, and when Alice once baked her a cake, Irina called it disgusting. Irina snaps back, asking what any of that has to do with the present. Alice reminds Suma of how boldly he spoke at the entrance ceremony, yet barely survived a task that required 200 servings. She claims performance-based cooking belongs to a bygone era and mocks him openly. Suma doesn't get angry. Instead, he admits he messed up and says he has learned from the experience. Both Alice and Irina are surprised by his response. Alice isn't getting the response she needs, and seeing as she can't rage bait Suma, Suma, Alice takes her leave, reminding both of them that she won't lose to either. She says she looks forward to facing Suma head-on and defeating him, and Suma feels the same. As Ryo walks away with her, Suma notices Ryo has a scarf wrapped around his wrist, just like him. Once they're gone, Megumi and Takumi rush over to Suma. They had been worried about him. Before they can fully catch their breath, Jin announces that the next task will begin in 4 hours and advises everyone to rest until then. The students groan in frustration, but Suma understands. After all, the camp was known to be extremely demanding. Despite their exhaustion, they follow Jin's instructions and hurry back to their dorms. The tests resume later and the students struggle to push through. Eventually, they are summoned to the lobby once again, completely drained. Yuki worries it might be another announcement like the egg task. The trauma still lingers. Jin finally appears. Before getting to the main point, he talks to them briefly, then delivers an inspiring pep talk, revisiting the purpose of the camp and how it's meant to shape them as future chefs. After wishing them luck in their lives, he announces the final part of the camp. The students brace themselves for another task, but to their surprise, it turns out to be a closing ceremony. It's a banquet with meals prepared specially by the alumni. Gin congratulates the students for surviving the training camp and tells them the only thing left to do is enjoy themselves. Relief washes over the room, followed by joy. It almost feels unreal. The students eat, relax, and enjoy the food laid out for them. Suma recalls how reluctantly he had agreed to attend the school at his father's request. Now, he admits that the academy might be far more interesting than he initially thought. After the ceremony, the students leave the next day with their luggage. Buses are already waiting outside to take them back to the academy. Everyone from Polar Star made it through, which comes as a huge relief. As they head outside, they talk about how brutal the camp was. Suma spots Kujiru and calls out to him. This time, Kujiru seems much friendlier than before, clearly happy that both Suma and Megumi survived. Judging by the bag he's carrying, Megumi can tell he's about to travel and asks if he's leaving for France already. Kujiru confirms it, explaining that he can't keep his restaurant closed for too long. He shares his new goal to turn his restaurant into the #1 3-star restaurant in all of Paris. The Plus Pole Award, he says, was only the beginning, and there's still so much left for him to achieve. They're bold dreams, but given his skill, they seem entirely possible. The other alumni soon join them, offering Suma and Megumi positions in their respective restaurants, though Hinako shows a particular interest in Megumi. Both students are confused until Jin steps in to explain. He says the camp wasn't only meant to eliminate weaker chefs, but also to give accomplished students the chance to be scouted by professionals for future positions after graduation. Hiromi, one of the alumni, adds that many chefs have to temporarily close their restaurants or hand them over to other chefs for the meantime in order to attend the camp. It's a crucial period for recruiting promising talent, since finding capable staff isn't easy. With that in mind, Hiromi offers Suma a position at the hotel where the camp was held. Suma politely declines without hesitation. He explains that he already works at his family's diner, and Jin understands. Suma adds that he and his father run the place by themselves, and that he wants to prove his worth someday and be recognized by his father as someone capable of inheriting the diner. Jin and the others watch as the students prepare to leave. Suddenly, Jin notices that Suma bears a striking resemblance to an old friend, though he quickly covers up his surprise. Just as Suma is about to board the bus, he realizes he left his scarf behind at the hotel and rushes back to retrieve it. Coincidentally, Irina also forgets something and steps away as well. She tells Hisako to take her luggage and leave with the bus, saying she'll return using another vehicle. Suma retrieves his scarf and manages to board a bus, only to realize too late that it's the wrong one. The bus is filled with elderly passengers who eagerly compliment his dish, praising and mentioning how much they enjoyed it. As the compliments continue, Soma snaps out of it and tries to get off, but by then, the bus has already left him behind. Moments later, Irina gets what she left behind and comes out. They're both surprised to see each other, though Irina is clearly annoyed that she now has to share a vehicle with Suma. Unfortunately, it's the last one available, leaving them no choice. The drive is long and painfully awkward. Suma attempts small talk, but Irina refuses to engage. Suma reminds her that she once said she wanted to see him expelled, lightly gloating that he's still enrolled. Irina responds that he won't survive the upcoming selection. Suma seems to have no idea about what she's talking about, so Irina explains. The autumn selection is a long-standing school tradition, a festival where chosen first-year students compete and display their skills. She adds that the Academy's board of directors, investors, and major figures in the food industry will all be present. According to Irina, the selection process has already begun. Members of the selection committee were observing the camp, taking notes. The camp, she explains, wasn't just about eliminating weak chefs, but also identifying those with the potential to rise above the rest. Suma is thrilled by the idea of the festival, which only irritates Irina further. She insists he won't even be selected. Irina brings up his statement during the camp when he said he learned from his mistakes, claiming he only said it to mask his failure, like any other loser would. She continues scolding him, stating that failure isn't acceptable for chefs and that only perfection matters. It's clear she has a specific cook in mind whose dishes she considers flawless. Suma doesn't argue or defend himself. Instead, he changes the subject, asking why she missed the bus. Irina snaps back, telling him it's none of his business. Accepting the situation, Soma gives up on conversation and decides to sleep. Meanwhile, Irina reflects on why she left the bus. She had forgotten her book, but more importantly, the picture inside it, a photograph of her as a child standing beside Juichiru. Around the same time, Jin confirms that Suma is indeed Juichiru's son, an old friend of his. Back at Polar Star, Fumio receives an unexpected visitor, Joichiro. She's surprised to see him, and it's clear the two are familiar with each other. Joichiro claims he was just passing by and decided to stop in. Later, Suma and the others return, excitedly sharing stories from the camp and catching up with Satoshi. Fumio welcomes them warmly and mentions she has something special prepared. The twist, she adds, is that she won't be the one cooking. She leads them to the kitchen, where Joichiro is busy preparing a meal. It takes a moment for the shock to settle in as Suma wonders why his father is there. Fumio is equally surprised to learn that Suma and Joichiro know each other. When the students ask, Fumio explains that Joichiro is an alumnus and a former resident of Polar Star Dormitory. She adds that he once held the position of second seat in the Elite 10, surprised that none of them knew. Joichiro remains casual about it all, while Soma struggles to process everything. The real shock comes when everyone learns that Joichiro and Soma are father and son. Satoshi appears to be the only one familiar with Joichiro's reputation. Past records describe him as a chef who traveled the world, showcasing his skills in countless restaurants. Eventually, Joichiro faded from the spotlight, becoming little more than a legend. Satoshi formally introduces himself. Suma still finds it hard to believe his father was ever famous. He was just a bit clueless, never questioning the foreign phone calls or the photos of his father with people from around the world. He assumed every family was like that. Clearly, his brain only functions for cooking. Joichiro finally finishes preparing the meal and the table is set. They toast to their return from camp and enjoy the feast. As expected from a former Elite 10 member, the food is incredible. Everyone enjoys themselves as Joichiro answers their questions about his cooking. Unfortunately for Zenji, he ends up tasting Joichiro's infamous terrible dish. Just like Suma's, it completely wreaks havoc on his taste buds. The group is surprised to learn that Jin and Joichiro were close friends and that Jin was also once a resident of Polar Star. Fumio reminisces about their accomplishments and how much they contributed to the dorm's reputation. Those were truly its glory days. While Jin still keeps in touch, Joichiro rarely does, and Fumio scolds him for it. They also discover that Joichiro never graduated, though he doesn't explain why. Later that night, Suma asks his father what Polar Star was like back then. Joichiro takes his time filling him in. After their father-son moment, they head to bed. It turns out Suma's room used to belong to Joichiro. As Suma falls asleep, he's still amazed by everything he's learned and wonders how many more things about his father remain unknown. The next morning, Suma wakes to his father calling him. Joichiro tells him to bring his tools and meet him in the kitchen. Suma complies, assuming breakfast is about to be made. On the way, a thought crosses his mind. Why did his father return to Japan? When he reaches the kitchen, Suma is caught off guard as Joichiro challenges him to a cooking match. He wants to see how much Suma has improved. Although the challenge comes as a shock to Suma, he doesn't back down. He squares up, determined to show Joichiro how much he has improved. The previous night, Satoshi had spoken with Joichiro about Suma. Joichiro admitted that the only cooking skills he ever taught Suma were those useful in running a diner. He wonders how out of place Suma must seem at the academy, knowing he wouldn't fit in easily. However, Satoshi mentions that from the very first time he faced Suma, he sensed that Suma would stir things up at the academy. Hearing this, Joichiro looks impressed. The cooking battle is about to begin, and Joichiro introduces Fumio as the judge. He had asked her the night before to officiate the contest, and she agreed. Satoshi suddenly appears, having suspected something interesting was about to happen. At the same time, Megumi wanders into the kitchen. She's still exhausted from the stress of the camp and is barely awake. Suma advises her to get proper rest, but Fumio immediately calls her over to join them as a judge. With 3 judges now present and no objections raised, they proceed. Fumio instructs that the dish should be something light, meant to energize them and prepare them for the day ahead. She allows them to use anything available in the kitchen, and with that, the challenge begins. Both Suma and Joichiro dive straight into cooking. Suma quickly thinks through his options and settles on a dish that fits Fumio's request. Joichiro, however, is already far ahead, quickly prepping his ingredients. As the contest continues, Megumi fully wakes up. She's surprised to see the two competing and asks Suma how he plans to win, considering his father was once among the Elite 10. Suma says this isn't new to him. He's been competing against his dad since grade school. Megumi is amazed and wonders if Suma has ever managed to win. Suma claims he doesn't really keep track or remember, but Joichiro is quick to expose the truth. He says Suma has has lost every single time, over 500 times. Suma immediately corrects him, insisting it was exactly 489 losses. So much for not remembering. Fumio recalls her conversation with Joichiro the night before. She agreed to judge because it had been a long time since she last saw him compete. Still, she warned him not to go easy on Suma just because he's his son. Joichiro responded that he had never gone easy on Suma in the first place. Megumi is stunned by Suma's confidence. He's standing his ground against someone who once held a seat amongst the Elite 10. Satoshi finally understands where Suma's refusal to back down comes from. Ever since childhood, Suma has been facing someone far stronger than him, losing countless times, and yet he never stopped trying. Eventually, both dishes are complete, and Suma serves first. The judges examine his meal, praising everything from its inviting aroma to its presentation. They take a bite, and, as expected, they love it. Each judge offers their feedback, noting how calming and well-balanced the dish feels. Soma answers their questions about his preparation method, leaving them impressed. However, it's time for Joichiro to present his dish. Suma's moment of triumph is short-lived, as Joichiro's meal, from all indications, will clearly be on another level. Fumio already knows that whatever he made would surpass Suma's nearly flawless dish. Expectations are high, but everyone is stunned when the dish is revealed. It's ramen. Though far from ordinary, Fumio is furious, scolding Joichiro for once again serving experimental dishes with strange ingredients. She reminds him that this habit cost him victories in the past. Even so, they taste the meal. The moment they do, they're completely absorbed, unable to stop eating. The dish is truly unique, with each ingredient playing a specific role. Judging by their reactions, it's far superior to Suma's dish. Joichiro answers all their questions, and each explanation leaves them in awe. He managed to create an incredibly complex and beautiful ramen without using meat or fish. A dish like this could only be made by someone who has traveled the world gathering knowledge. Megumi, Satoshi, and Fumio eat until their plates are completely empty. The time to judge finally arrives, and Joichiro wins by a landslide. Soma is used to losing to his father, so this feels like just another day. Fumio admits Suma's dish was comforting and well made, but after tasting Joichiro's meal, its flaws became obvious. In comparison, Joichiro's meal is clearly superior. Satoshi gives his honest critique, noting that he had just returned from fieldwork. Joichiro's dish was deeply satisfying, while Suma's, though tasty, felt underwhelming in comparison. Suma realizes his mistake. He had focused on easing their fatigue and meeting their needs, while Joichiro focused on giving them pure enjoyment. With the contest over, Joichiro admits that Suma has improved. He encourages him not to lose to anyone else until the next time they face each other. The heartfelt moment doesn't last long, as Joichiro immediately rubs Suma's loss in his face, marking it as his 490th defeat. Both of them pull out their notebooks and jot it down while the others watch in confusion. The competitive tension between them is intense. Megumi feels inspired by Suma's determination. The fact that he has continuously challenged someone far more skilled than himself is impressive. She speaks up, promising to keep striving to improve as well. As they head back to their rooms, Megumi talks about how amazing Suma's father is. Suma agrees. He states that his goal hasn't changed. He wants to reach the very top, higher than even his father ever did. The battle has only fueled his drive. He urges Megumi to aim for the Elite 10 as well, but she lacks the confidence to even consider it. Joichiro prepares to leave, though Fumio wishes he would stay longer. She asks him to give Suma more advice, but Joichiro believes Suma will figure things out on his own. He says he only came to see him. With that, Joichiro leaves the compound, promising to return someday. Meanwhile, Arina is stuck on a long and dull drive. By chance, Joichiro passes by her vehicle. Her instincts immediately kick in, and she orders the car to stop. She steps out to have a better look, but he's already gone. Back at Polar Star Dormitory, Suma and the others are surprised and disappointed to hear that Joichiro has left. Suma would have preferred a proper goodbye, but he lets it go. Fumio then reveals that Joichiro left a message for him, a piece of advice to air out their restaurant once in a while. Suma is confused. Fumio explains that the holidays are approaching and suggests he spend them at home. Back at Suma's diner, there seems to be a crisis in the shopping district surrounding the restaurant. The place is basically ghosted. Mayumi walks home after school with a group of friends. As they pass by Suma's diner, she slows down and lingers behind. The sight of the place brings back memories, and her expression turns gloomy. The others notice and tease her lightly, pointing out that she must be thinking about Suma. Aki, one of Mayumi's friends, reminds her that she once encouraged Mayumi to ask Suma out. Even though the chance seems to have slipped away, Aki believes Mayumi still has a shot. She suggests reaching out to Suma, maybe through a text or a call. Mayumi, however, doubts anything will come of it and doesn't think it would work between them. At that moment, the diner doors open and Suma steps outside. Everyone is surprised to see him and wonders if he plans to reopen the place. After exchanging greetings, Suma explains that he only came to air out the diner. Soon enough, people begin to gather around, clearly excited to see him. They tell him how much they missed his cooking, and before long, Suma gives in and decides to open the diner again. The place quickly fills up, and Suma serves everyone. They're all excited. Aki asks about Joichiro, and Suma explains that he is away on foreign business. As they eat, Mayumi remembers the first time she visited the diner. Aki had urged her to attend a cooking contest Suma once had with his father, insisting the food there was amazing. Although Mayumi attended the same school as Suma for years, they rarely spoke. To her, Suma always seemed impressive and talented, while she viewed herself as ordinary. She only wanted to get closer to him, but after graduating from middle school and going their separate ways, he felt increasingly distant and unreachable. Later, most of the customers leave. Only then does Suma notice how empty the shopping district feels. He spots Yuya, the chairman of the district, who looks gloomy and troubled. Suma approaches him to ask what's wrong. Yuya explains that about a month earlier, the station's commercial complex completed its renovation. The new complex is modern and packed with shops, including a food outlet that has gained great popularity. Everyone who eats there speaks highly of it. Because of this, customers now flock there instead, leaving the shopping district nearly deserted. Yuya feels helpless and copes by stress eating. Suma refuses to give up. He tells the others they should take action by making the same food sold at the mall and improving it. Yuya feels it's impossible, believing their rivals are superior in every way. Still, Suma insists that trying is better than doing nothing. He explains that customers are never truly satisfied, and if something better is offered, they will return. He says he can't stand by and watch the district fade away. His determination inspires the others, and they agree to support him. Suma decides to use his holiday to create a new dish. Everyone places their hopes on him and offers help where they can. Mayumi also wants to contribute but feels too shy to speak up, unsure if she would be useful. Aki notices her hesitation and suddenly pushes her towards Suma, suggesting he use Mayumi as a taste tester. Mayumi is unsure and hesitant, but Aki insists, leaving her with no way out. Suma agrees and says they should first try the food at the mall before deciding what to do. On the way home, Mayumi expresses her doubts, saying she isn't qualified to be a tester. Aki can tell that she's really just shy and encourages her not to waste the chance to get closer to Suma. At this point, it's more of a threat than a suggestion. That night, Suma reflects on their challenge. The mall's garage is something he has served before, but he knows it isn't enough. To win customers back, he needs something better. Realizing he'll need help, he thinks through a number of people who could actually help out. Ikumi seems to be the most suited for the issue at hand, and Suma immediately contacts her. Ikumi is surprised by the call, but Suma gets straight to the point and asks for her assistance. The next day, Ikumi arrives at the district. Mayumi waits at the diner while Suma finishes preparing. They plan to head to the mall to investigate further. Mayumi feels nervous, worried she won't be helpful, but she remembers Aki's words and tries to gather courage, though the thought still unsettles her. When Ikumi arrives, Mayumi feels even more intimidated. After Suma introduces them, the three head to the mall. Suma is amazed by the size and atmosphere of the complex, filled with people. Ikumi, meanwhile, feels uneasy about Mayumi's presence and tries to convince herself to be okay with it. She would have preferred it was just her and Suma. Mayumi, on the other hand, feels inferior and even wonders if Ikumi might be Suma's girlfriend. Tension rises between the two, and Ikumi flares up, attacking Mayumi when their eyes finally meet. Mayumi shrinks back, but Suma manages to calm things down. They eventually reach the garage shop. Ikumi recognizes the sellers, a well-known company that has won numerous competitions. Their business is thriving, and beating them already seems like an impossible task. While observing the queue, they notice Yuya disguised among the customers. He explains that he wants to help, though his disguise fails when Kinu, the shop owner, recognizes him. Realizing they're from the shopping district, Kinu offers them some carriage to taste. Upon trying it, they immediately understand why it's so popular. Kinu proudly explains her method, confident in her product. Soma points out that they are essentially spies, but Kinu doesn't care, claiming they wouldn't be able to replicate her recipe anyway. Suma accepts this as a challenge. Kinu openly mocks Yuya, belittling the shopping district. But Suma steps in and fires back, stating that it would be embarrassing if their district created courage better than hers. This angers Kinu, who lashes out, claiming her business is far beyond their level and that the district deserves to disappear. She feels insulted and considers Suma's statement as big talk. Later, they return to the diner. Mayumi is still shaken, but Suma and Ikumi remain unfazed. They attempt to recreate the courage using the same methods as their rival. The first attempt is decent but still inferior to Kinu's. Ikumi then suggests using a different type of meat. She offers to give Suma some of her premium meat at a discount, along with high-quality ingredients. Even so, the cost remains high. Suma asks Mayumi if she has any ideas. Nervously, she suggests making use of the fact that they're a shopping district to their advantage. Suma does think much of it, as it doesn't really click. Elsewhere, Kinu speaks on the phone with a mysterious individual. She boasts about their location and how successful they are. She mentions that choosing a location was really a good choice. The caller warns her not to lower her guard and asks her to report any potential threats. Though she casually mentions Suma, she insists he's no real concern. The caller, Etsuya, orders her to keep an eye on him regardless. After the call, Kinu expresses how she truly feels. She's irritated by Etsuya's ego. Back at the diner, Suma and the others continue struggling to perfect their karage. As they brainstorm, Ikumi notices schoolchildren passing through the district. She draws Suma's draws attention to it, and suddenly, Mayumi's earlier suggestion clicks, and an idea forms. Suma realizes they don't need to compete on Kinu's terms. Instead of copying Kinu, they can create something unique, something only a shopping district can offer. He mentions that they will focus on the best way to enjoy Karaj itself. His confidence convinces the others that they are onto something promising. Meanwhile, Atsuya, revealed to be a high school student, finishes another call. He is clearly talented and valued by major companies. A colleague informs him about upcoming business involving the autumn selection and narrowing down participants. Atsuya considers it pointless displaying his arrogance. His colleague Satoshi reminds him they have no choice but to comply as members of the Elite 10. There with them is Arena, the 10th member of the Elite 10. Suma explains his plan in more detail. Karaj tastes best when it's freshly made, hot, and steaming. However, Kinu's company doesn't serve it that way. Their Karaj is packaged and sold because customers can't eat it on the spot. As a shopping district, Suma believes they have the advantage. Unlike the mall, the district allows customers to walk around and while eating, which makes it the perfect setting. The others understand the idea, and Suma is confident they can win this way. Yuya gets fired up, overflowing with motivation, and promises to improve his own recipes so they can defeat Kinu together. With that, he runs off. Ikumi stares at Yuya sharply as he reminds her too much of Kenichi. Meanwhile, back at the station, Kinu continues advertising her courage as customers flood in. Her assistant informs her that Atsuya's bills have arrived. Kinu decides she no longer needs Atsuya as a consultant. Confident in her location and rising sales, she believes his expensive guidance is unnecessary. Business is booming, and she's convinced it will stay that way with or without him. Back at the diner, Suma and the others keep brainstorming ways to make their carriage portable. Suma considers using a small case, but it won't hold enough pieces. Mayumi suggests serving it on a stick, but Suma feels it wouldn't aesthetically look appealing. They realize both packaging and the taste of their carriage still need work. Just then, Suma remembers a recipe book he used as a child and thinks it might help. He rushes off to get it, leaving Mayumi alone with Ikumi. Although nervous, Mayumi still tries to make conversation. As usual, Ikumi's intimidating presence makes things awkward, and the exchange doesn't go well. From Ikumi's reactions, Mayumi begins to suspect she has feelings for Suma. Suma soon returns with a stack of books. They resume cooking, and eventually, their courage reaches a satisfying level. All that's left is figuring out how to serve it. Just then, Yuya bursts in, looking like he was chased by a monster, but apparently, he was simply too excited about his progress. He proudly presents his dish, but it fails to impress the others. It's a regular and common dish. Embarrassed by their reaction, Yuya realizes his dish isn't special. Still, it isn't a total loss. Soma draws inspiration from it. Their goal is clear: create courage that is innovative, portable, memorable, and enhanced in flavor. With that realization, they move quickly, finalize their approach, and prepare for launch. The next day, Kinu steps out to promote her courage as usual, but the crowd is noticeably thinner. She spots several kids passing by with courage containers that aren't hers. At first, she doubts her eyes. The following day confirms it. Customers walk by holding courage in stylish containers, and her sales continue to drop. Things get worse when two men ask her for directions to the new popular carriage spot. The moment they learn it's in the shopping district, they leave. The buzz is all about Suma's carriage now. Furious that her loyal customers are ignoring her, Kinu heads to the shopping district to see the situation herself. When she arrives, she's stunned. The district is packed with people lining up for Suma's courage. Inside the diner, Suma and Ikumi work seamlessly in the kitchen, while Yuya and Mayumi assist. The aroma fills the air, heightening the customer's anticipation. With a few modifications, Suma and Ikumi have upgraded their courage beyond Kinu's. Kinu is left speechless. Suma notices her standing outside and steps out to meet her, wearing a smug look as he watches her shock. When she asks how long he planned this, she's stunned to hear it only took 3 days. She can't believe he pulled everything together so quickly and admits she underestimated him. In such a short time, he revived the shopping district and crippled her business. Though Kinu is furious, Soma urges her to at least taste the carriage. After a moment, Kinu cools down and takes a bite. The flavor overwhelms her, stirring memories of her youth. She realizes Suma's courage was created for something greater than profits. It was made with the customers in mind. At the end of the day, Suma thanks Ikumi for her help and asks her to teach him more when she's available. She agrees as long as she has free time. Nearby, Mayumi quietly cleans the diner. She admits to herself that she envies Ikumi and she gets to spend more time with Suma. Just then, to Mayumi's surprise, Suma approaches and asks her to help Yuya part-time at the shop. He explains he won't always be around and they can't depend on Yuya alone. Nervous, Mayumi points out that she's never worked before and wonders if someone else would be better. However, Suma mentions that she's his best choice. He trusts she's responsible and has always noticed her good attributes, even back in school. Mayumi is shocked. She always thought Suma was far out of reach, unaware that he paid attention to her. Suma assures her there's no pressure, but Mayumi agrees to take the job. Knowing he noticed her all along makes her happy. Suma is glad she accepted and mentions he'll stop by the diner often, encouraging her to come by so he can cook for her. To Mayumi, it feels unreal. Elsewhere, news of Kinu's company suffering massive losses reaches Etsuya. Unhappy, he demands for answers. Once the holidays end, Suma heads back to school. Along the way, a group of students stop him. After confirming his identity, they ask him to come along with them, escorting him away. He's taken to Etsuya's office. Upon entering, Suma asks who he is. Etsuya refers to himself as the mastermind behind Kinu's success. He acknowledges Suma's courage and praises it, but also states that Suma ruined his perfect record by reviving the shopping district. Having guided many companies to success, Suma represents his first failure. Still, Suma remains unfazed. Suma casually asks if Etsuya plans to beat him up, but Etsuya has other intentions. He offers Suma a job. Suma refuses without a second thought, stating his goal is to continue running his family's diner and that he has no interest in working for anyone else. Etsuya isn't surprised. He claims Suma is just like everyone else, trapped in their own small world. He belittles Suma, saying his mindset is limited because he was born into a small-time restaurant. When Suma asks if Etsuya is a chef, Etsuya immediately denies it, correcting that he's the one chef's answer to. After his narcissistic speech, Etsuya reveals that Suma has been chosen for the autumn selection. However, he warns him not to celebrate as he believes the event will mark the end of Suma's rise. He vows to make Suma pay for ruining his record and finally reveals his identity as the 9th member of the Elite 10. Arena and some other members of the Elite 10 are evaluating students to be chosen for the autumn selection. Arena suggests that Suma be reevaluated, insisting that he doesn't deserve a spot, but Satoshi points out that she's always irrational when it comes to Suma. He asks if she has a personal issue with him, but Arena fires back, questioning whether Satoshi is biased because Suma is from his dorm. Satoshi denies it. Etsuya steps in to support letting Suma join, mentioning that although Suma hasn't been at the academy for long, he's already accomplished a lot. With that, Arena has no choice but to accept the decision. The list is posted at the school, and everyone rushes to check if they made it. Suma, Shun, Ryuko, Yuki, and Megumi are on the list. Takumi, Izumi, Izami, and of course Arena's cousin Alice also make it, along with Ryu, her assistant. The crowd's attention is then captured by Urara, the host for the autumn selection. She's great at hosting, and the crowd absolutely loves her, well, mostly the boys. She explains the structure of the contest. The 60 contestants will be split into 2 groups, and only those who rank high enough in the first stage will advance to the actual tournament. She also relays a message from Etsuya, urging the contestants to showcase their talents as VIPs from the food industry will be in attendance. He warns them that presenting an unworthy dish means forfeiting any hope of pursuing a career in the food industry. That message motivates many of the students. Hisako was also participating in the contest. She promises not to disappoint Arena and even adds that she'll punish Suma. Just hearing his name sets Arena off. She remembers all the time she claimed he wouldn't make it, only for him to prove her wrong. Still, she refuses to give up and remains determined to frustrate him. Suma asks if Arena won't be participating, and Alice explains that the Elite 10 are overseeing the selection. Megumi is feeling anxious and unworthy a spot in the selection. Some boys gossip about how she was chosen despite her low grades, but Miyoko suddenly appears and scolds them, reminding them that it's never just about grades. Intimidated, the boys run off. Megumi thanks her and asks who she is, but Miyoko ignores the question and says she's interested in Megumi. When she brings up the cooking battle with Kujuru, Megumi gives all the credit to Suma. Realizing that Megumi performed well because of a guy, Miyoko immediately loses interest, says she misjudged her, and walks away. More students gather around Alice as she explains that the current Elite 10 members once fought in this very tournament, meaning the next Elite 10 will come from those who survived this year's selection. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the school, Arena is being watched by an obsessed fan named Nao. Nao wishes Arena would be mean to her and harbors deep resentment toward Hisako for being close to Arena. That night in the dorm, Suma recalls his father's warning not to lose to anyone else, and the thought fires him up for the contest. The next morning marks the start of summer break. Suma's dorm receives an envelope from the autumn selection office containing the theme for the first round, curry dishes. They gather to discuss it, and Suma suddenly remembers a colleague his father once told him about, someone obsessed with curry. Juichiro mentioned that she's now an instructor at the academy and advised Suma to mention his name if they ever met. Suma decides to visit her lab with Megumi. When they arrive, they meet a small woman who seems extremely anxious. She and Megumi immediately fall into an apology contest until Suma interrupts. The woman turns out to be Jin, the spice-obsessed scientist, but Suma mistakes her for an assistant and asks to see the boss, casually mentioning that he's Joichiru's son. Jun responds by knocking him out with a powerful punch. Hold on, let's look at this from another angle. Damn, she's clearly furious at the mention of Juichiru's name. Akira enters the scene, confused by the situation. It turns out Jun has nothing but bad memories of Yuichiro. As the youngest in the dorm back then, she was subjected to his experiments, which scarred her for life. Suma wonders why she hasn't aged at all, and Jun credits spices for her appearance. They all sit down to talk. Suma explains that they want to learn more about curry, but Jun remains stubborn, saying she'll only teach Megumi. She refuses to deal with Juichiro or any of his family members. Akira steps in. He's also a first-year student, but he works as an assistant in Jun's lab. When he mentions some of her work, it triggers a full-blown lecture on spices. She's so careless about everything else that she doesn't even bother get a lab coat her size. Akira eventually suggests learning through experience and invites them into the kitchen, where he serves curry-based dishes one after another. Each dish is better than the last. As Megumi gets swept away by the food, Suma notices that Akira never once looks into the pot, relying entirely on fragrance. That skill is exactly why Jun needs him. She handles the scientific side, while Akira translates her theories into actual dishes. Akira reveals that he's also competing in the autumn selection, and he's in the same group as Suma. He confidently claims that the top spot belongs to him. Even after seeing Akira's abilities firsthand, Suma isn't discouraged. He's certain he can create a curry dish that surpasses Akira's. For Suma, meeting someone better than him is nothing but a challenge. The autumn selection is fast approaching, and Megumi is in full panic mode. With the likes of Akira and other top-class cooks set to appear in the competition, Megumi fears she doesn't stand a chance. Suma, on the other hand, remains calm. He tries to encourage her, telling her to raise her game and stop focusing on the pressure. Suma is so used to pressure that it barely affects him. His only focus is the dish. He knows there is more to cooking than just spices. For the rest of the summer, everyone spends their time preparing for the autumn selection. There's a sense that everyone has a trump card up their sleeves. It would be strange if they didn't, considering how big the event is. Takumi spends his summer in Italy, while Izami stays back for a few more days. He wants to think about the task more carefully on his own. Takumi understands. Izami jokingly tells Takumi not to cry when he wins the autumn selection, just like he used to when they were kids, a sore loser crybaby. This makes Takumi furious, and he quickly points out that those days are long gone. They finally bid each other farewell as Takumi takes his leave. Miyoko is determined to make a name for herself. She wants to prove to everyone that she, a female, is just as qualified as anyone else to be a head chef. In the past, she had been looked down on at her father's restaurant. After proving herself to her doubters by showing how skilled she truly is, she points out that she will soon graduate from cooking school and return to join their kitchen. She aims to win the autumn selection and take the first seat in the Elite 10, because once she does, nobody would dare look down on her again. By August, all the first-year Polar Star members, apart from Suma, return home to visit their families. They're all still anticipating the fast-approaching autumn selection. Like everyone else, Nao prepares for the event, though her process is far too creepy. She plans to impress Irina, eliminate Hisako, and become Irina's new secretary. Her hostile intentions toward Hisako are so intense that Hisako feels a chill in real time, peak competitive spirit. Meanwhile, Hisako prepares her dish, and Irina, who has nothing else to do but sit idly, keeps her company. Irina isn't competing in the prelims. Alice, as usual, spies on them from a distance. Noticing Irina's boredom, Alice claims she's bored too, stating that she has already figured out what she'll make for the prelims. On that note, Ryu mentions that he needs to work on his dish, but Alice refuses to let him go. Megumi returns home and everyone is happy to see her. Her mother mentions how much she has improved, but Megumi insists she still has a long way to go. She remembers her encounter with Miyoko and becomes determined to work things out on her own. She has always relied on others for help. Now, it's time for her to become independent. As the days pass, all the contestants focus on their preparations. Suma works on his recipe overnight, and Satoshi runs into him the next morning, completely drained. After looking through Suma's trials, Satoshi finds one particular dish really interesting. However, Suma says it still isn't finished. There's more to it. Soon after, he finally collapses and falls asleep. It turns out he isn't the only one pushing himself that hard. Akira also pulled an all-nighter. He was perfecting his trump card and is confident he won't lose. Finally, the big day arrives. All the contestants, including Suma, make their way to the academy, fully prepared. The arena they'll be cooking in is incredibly grand, unlike anywhere they've cooked before. Suma and the others meet up, happy to see one another. He also runs into Ikumi and casually encourages her, suggesting they win together. The word together leaves Ikumi flustered, and she hurriedly reminds him that they're rivals before anxiously running off. Alice and Ryo soon cross paths with Suma, and as usual, Alice keeps up her high and mighty attitude. Akira also meets Suma, and the two share a brief, friendly exchange before Akira walks on. Takumi gets his moment as well, attempting to deliver a speech about his rivalry and competition against Suma, but Suma is distracted by Asami, who looks almost unrecognizable. He's lost a significant amount of weight, something that apparently happens to him every summer. Everyone is shocked, but after Takumi explains the situation, he tries tries to continue his speech, only to be cut short by the opening of the event. The Academy's director, Nakiri, takes the stage. He looks intimidating, yet speaks like any ordinary old man. After nearly choking on air while taking a deep breath, the director begins addressing the students. He speaks about the great hall they're standing in, explaining that only the Elite 10 normally use it for their challenges and contests. He points out the portraits of those who have held the first seat of the Elite 10 and urges the students to pay their respects. Soma gazes at the portraits and recognizes Jin among the faces, and surprisingly, Kujuru as well. The director continues praising the arena, fueling the students' excitement. However, only those who pass the prelims will earn the right to compete there. Urara then takes the stage and explains the rules of the competition. There will be a total of 5 judges, each capable of awarding up to 20 points. This means a contestant can score a maximum of 100 points. Only the top 8 students, 4 from each group, will advance from the prelims out of 60 contestants. They are given 3 hours to prepare their dishes. Once the time comes, the director gives the signal and the cooking begins. Suma, along with the other students, locks in and focuses solely on doing his best. Natsume, one of the 5 judges for Group A, arrives late. She's a major figure, and nearly everyone's attention is drawn to her dramatic entrance. That likely explains her overwhelming confidence. Known as the Queen of Curry, she specializes in the very ingredient the competition is centered around. Etsuya is also present, though not as a judge. Natsume's twin, Ori, is more reserved. She serves as a judge for Group B. However, her attention isn't fully on the competition, as she attempts to convince Satoshi to leave school and work with her. Satoshi politely declines and urges her to focus on judging. The students continue cooking as the judges and spectators watch with keen interest. The atmosphere is electric. The judges begin evaluating the contestants early on. Ori notices several students who catch her interest and requests that they be assigned to her. However, she openly dismisses Megumi, believing she lacks spark and potential. Satoshi strongly disagrees. The students continue performing well with their chosen dishes, including Nao, who looks like a witch brewing some sinister spell. Ryo remains calm and composed during his preparation, but the moment he removes his scarf and ties it around his head, his demeanor shifts completely. He becomes wildly intense, cooking like a raging machine. Akira works his own magic, filling the space with an incredible aroma that leaves everyone amazed, yet he's only just getting started. The judges continue observing and assessing the students, impressed by some more than others. Natsume wonders who Etsuya believes stands out the most. Etsuya admits he hasn't decided yet, but mentions that there's a particular person he's keeping an eye on. Suma. To everyone's shock, while the others push themselves working hard, Suma is fast asleep. Everyone watches in shock as Suma sleeps at such a critical moment. Just then, as the aroma of his meal begins seeping out of the pot, Suma suddenly wakes up, leaving everyone even more stunned. It's clear he had been waiting for the perfect moment. He swiftly opens the pot, and the aroma floods the air. His dish looks almost magical. Akira grows curious about Suma's dish, carefully analyzing it and trying to guess the ingredients used. However, he can't quite put his finger on what makes it so unique. Suma confidently states that his cooking is only just beginning. Meanwhile, the rest of the contestants continue pouring all their effort into perfecting their dishes. Some students in the audience notice how plain and boring Megumi's cooking appears and grow irritated, shouting harsh remarks at her. Thankfully, Shoji and Daigo step in before things escalate. The students panic and flee. Daigo and Shuji only allow them to leave because Fumio intervenes and tells them to stand down. The two then start shouting words of encouragement toward Megumi and the other Polar Star members, basically acting as literal cheerleaders. Megumi remains focused on cooking, though her clumsiness causes her to bump into Miyoko. Miyoko sees Megumi as a nuisance in the kitchen, pointing out that she lacks awareness of her surroundings. Megumi apologizes sincerely. Miyoko lets it slide and returns to her cooking, performing with a grand and stylish flair that leaves the crowd amazed. At the same time, Takumi is putting on an impressive show of his own. Unlike these flashy chefs, Megumi appears sloppy and awkward. She struggles to push in an item, though no one can tell what it is yet. Watching her, Miyoko admits she had high expectations after hearing about Megumi's battle with Kujuru. To her, this is really a disappointment. Suddenly, everyone gasps as Megumi removes the wrapping and reveals what she's been forcing in: a monkfish. The shock comes not only from how difficult monkfish is to prepare, but also from the fact that Megumi is the one handling it. Nearly everyone doubts she can pull it off, as cutting monkfish requires an exceptional level of skill. Megumi takes a moment to calm herself, wishing for some of Suma's courage. She then puts on her gloves and gets to work, carving through the fish with the precision of a seasoned professional. Megumi's grandfather was once an expert at preparing monkfish, but he was forced to retire as age weakened him and made it impossible to continue. Monkfish preparation brought great profit to their family, and after overhearing her grandfather's condition, Megumi resolved to learn the skill herself. After asking for help and being given the chance to train, she dedicated herself fully to mastering the process. Megumi cuts through the fish with ease, leaving the crowd and Ori in awe. Fumio and the rest of the Polar Star dorm residents are thrilled and proud. At last, everyone can see how skilled Megumi truly is. The 3 hours allotted for cooking are nearly over, and most of the chefs have already finished. Time is finally called, and and the judging phase begins. Sticking to the 20 points per judge rule, the first student presents his dish. The judges taste it and offer positive remarks, but the final score is underwhelming. He earns only 33 points out of 100. Confused and crushed, the student crashes out as he's unable to understand how he scored so poorly after receiving praise. Osagi, one of the judges, explains the harsh reality. While the dish is acceptable for a student, at a professional level, it's merely average. The contestants now grasp the seriousness of the competition. All 5 judges are top-tier figures in the culinary world and their standards are high. Of course, their judgment would be strict. One student after another receives low scores and failures continue to pile up. Barely anyone even reaches 40 points. When it's Nao's turn, things go exactly as expected and not in a good way. The stench of her dish spreads throughout the arena, leaving everyone disgusted. Nao uses highly questionable ingredients, especially an excessive amount of fish, foul-smelling fish. The judges are fed up and nearly dismiss her without tasting the dish, but Ori boldly takes a bite, despite her disgust. To her surprise, it's incredibly delicious. Seeing her reaction, the other judges taste it as well, and they're quickly impressed, unable to stop eating. Nao specializes in stewed dishes and believes true beauty lies in disguised cooking. Her style has earned her the title of the Boiling Witch. Despite its terrible smell, the dish earns her 84 points. The entire arena is shaken. No one has scored that high since judging began. Next up is Hisako, and Nao eagerly anticipates her downfall. Nao dreams of becoming arena's secretary, obsessing over both the privilege and burden of the role. They had once settled the matter through a cooking battle, which Hisako won. Still, Nao believes this time will be different and that she'll finally gain Arena's recognition. Hisako presents her dish, and because of her close relationship with Arena, expectations run high. The food looks refined, and the judges analyze it carefully before tasting. Nao believes her own dish has cursed the judges and that they won't enjoy Hisako's food. However, when the first judge tastes it, he appears instantly revitalized, brimming with energy as if injected with a super soldier serum. This is Hisako's speciality, medical cuisine. She prioritizes her customers' health, using herbal remedies and nourishing ingredients in her dishes. As she explains her process and ingredients, the judges grow increasingly impressed. Once they dig in, they find the dish both refreshing and delicious. Unable to stop eating, Nao is left in disbelief. Her curry should have affected the judges. At that moment, Hisako hands Nao a plate of her dish, stating that once she tastes it, she'll understand the difference between them. Nao takes a bite, and it's as though she's reborn. Hisako's food cleanses her of her dark, unsettling aura. Hisako continues, explaining that Nao's cooking is self-centered, unlike her own. Her family has practiced medicine for generations, and she has long served Arena, who has borne a heavy burden since childhood, through her medical cuisine. Just as emperors in imperial China were served by dietetic doctors and personal physicians, Hisako declares that she serves Arena, whom she considers her empress. With that, she states that Nao is unworthy of serving Arena. The judges deliver their verdict, and the score surpasses even Nao's. The arena erupts in shock as Hisako earns an amazing 92 points. Despite her defeat, Nao develops a deep admiration for Hisako. Hisako is creeped out. Next up to present a dish is Miyoko. Her dish earns her 87 points, pushing Nao aside to take second place. The judges are really impressed by her meal. They can tell every careful step she took to make the dish. Shingo calls her a kung fu master cloaked in dragon flame. Megumi didn't even know curry could be turned into something like that. Miyoko returns feeling proud, completely disregarding Megumi. Next is Yuki, who ends up in third place, pushing Nao down to fourth. Osagi had even finished his meal and is impressed enough to invite Yuki to his gourmet club. Fumio feels proud of Yuki and how far she's come. Now it's time for the Aldini brothers. Isami goes first. His dish is a calzone with curry inside. The judges find it interesting and go in for a bite. The tomatoes inside are outstanding and well spiced. The dish is chewy and sweet, like a blend of Italian and Japanese cuisine. Takumi is proud of his brother. Everyone used to think Isami was pitiable, forever sitting in his brother's shadow, but he too was pursuing his own culinary horizons. The judges score him 87 points, placing him in third position. Nao is officially out of the competition, but for some strange reason she's laughing, probably still because of Hisako. Now it's Takumi's turn. He also presents an Italian dish. It doesn't look appealing, but the taste is insane. As usual, the judges can taste every detail of the meal, but he's so good that he still manages to surprise them. He's a true pioneer of the culinary world. Back when they were younger, people preferred Takumi's food because it was more fancy, and Isami didn't like that. He even got yelled at for trying to experiment with a meal. At the end of the day, while he was sulking, Takumi approached him. Isami apologized for ruining the dish while trying to prove himself, but Takumi instead suggested they work together to make their restaurant the best. Izumi is proud of his brother. Takumi earns a whopping 90 points, placing him in second position. The tension keeps rising. Before Urara can call the next contestant, Alice impatiently submits her dish. The dish confuses everyone at first. Alice proudly explains that everything in the dish is curry. The judges take a bite but freeze in place, completely speechless. As Alice explains her process, they become even more awed. The dish is so delicious that even Shingo, a writer, can't find the words to describe it properly. They give her the title Global Innovator and award her her a massive 95 points. Alice takes the lead. Though she's disappointed it wasn't a perfect score, she still takes the time to taunt Hisako. The current top 4 candidates are Alice, Hisako, Takumi, and then Izami and Miyoko tied for 4th. Only 4 people will move on to the next stage, so the judges have to decide between Izami and Miyoko. Urara is about to call for a vote when a hand suddenly goes up. It turns out Megumi hasn't presented her curry dish yet. Urara is annoyed, and the judges don't look too pleased either. Suddenly, there's an uproar in the audience. Megumi's people have shown up for her. She's excited to see them, feeling loved and all. Miyoko notices that the scary-looking men seem to really like Megumi and wonders just who Megumi really is. Megumi steps up to present her dish, feeling confident. The judges recognize it as a common dish among fishermen and initially look down on it until they taste it. Suddenly, they're on cloud 9 as the deliciousness seeps into them. Megumi explains that she wanted to include ingredients from her hometown, so she experimented with them until she got it right. She wanted to create a curry dish that could make someone almost experience what it feels like to be back home. The villagers are deeply touched. When Megumi's mother realized how good her cooking had become, she couldn't let her waste away in their small town. She suggested the school tour. Megumi hesitated, wanting to help out at the inn instead, but her mother told her to go see the bigger world first before making her final decision. Megumi waits anxiously for her score. She doesn't want to disappoint her people after everything she's been through and how far she's come. She earns a total of 88 points, placing her in 4th position and displacing both Izami and Miyoko. Some students are surprised, but Megumi's people are incredibly proud of her. Izami and Takumi are happy for her too. Miyoko realizes she's been thinking the wrong way. She believed she had to overpower men to succeed, but seeing Megumi being supported and celebrated by men makes her rethink everything. Meanwhile, in Group A, Natsume is handing out zeros to contestants. It's Ryu's turn. Natsume recognizes him from his little display while cooking. Ryu's curry dish is lobster and rice. The other judges already find it impressive, but Natsume dismisses it as a common dish. She tastes it and is instantly transported into another dimension. Still unable to fully grasp the flavor, she takes another bite. This shocks everyone as it's her second bite. Bro completely loses her chill as the full flavor hits. The other judges are won over as well. Ryu becomes the first contestant to receive a positive reaction from the judges. Irina recalls when Alice first introduced him to her. She finally understands why her cousin chose him. Suma doesn't believe that is all there is to the dish, and he's right. Just before Natsume gives her score, Ryu stops her. He pulls out his bandana and switches personalities. The tasting isn't over yet. He brings out droppers for each judge, instructing them to drip a few drops into the lobster head shell and then slurp the contents. Natsume refuses at first, calling it uncultured, but Ryu can tell that deep down she wants to slurp it. They're also told to stuff their mouths with rice immediately after. He promises it'll be even better than what they tasted before. That's enough to entice Natsume, and she follows his instructions. She nearly faints. The food had absolutely no business being that good. Ryu earns 93 points, putting him in the lead. Now there's concern that no one else might reach that score. Natsume, meanwhile, feels ambushed, as she wasn't expecting something that overwhelming. She reminds herself to stay calm. The next candidate is Ikumi with pork curry. Natsume is already done for. Just the appearance alone is mouth-watering. Kenichi is in awe, and even Jun wants a bite. Natsume isn't prepared to judge another great dish after what she just experienced. She braces herself and digs in, but it still completely mesmerizes her. Ikumi once again delivers a devastatingly good meat dish, perfectly combining high-quality ingredients. Yua, the host, tries to stop the judges from overeating since many dishes are still left, but Natsume is long gone, eating like she hasn't had food in years. The judges dub Ikumi the meat general. She earns 86 points, placing her in 2nd place. She's disappointed she didn't reach the 90s, but Suma is still proud of her, and Kenichi is even prouder. Yua is relieved that it's finally starting to feel like a real competition. Ryuko is next. Her dish looks plain and underwhelming, but of course it tastes like a complete plot twist. She explains the process behind the dish, revealing how she used fermentation to enhance the flavors. The professors are amazed. At this point, I'm very sure the judges have forgotten all their worries. They give her the same score as Ikumi, 86 points, placing them both in 2nd place. Next up is Zenji. Bro is ready to stir things up. His dish is essentially curry noodles, simple in appearance and not very promising. Once the judges taste it, they're completely dumbstruck. Yeah, it's that good. When they finally recover, they break down the dish and praise how deeply satisfying it is. Takao is pleased by Zenji's perfect showcase of talent. Zenji works at a food research lab and is considered its star. He isn't as skilled in traditional cooking as the others, but his deep study of flavor has earned him the title of Professor of Taste. Zenji scores 88 points, pushing Ikumi and Ryuko aside and placing him in 2nd place. His friends are thrilled for him. Next is Shun. The aroma of his dish alone is life-changing. However, since all his ingredients are smoked, Natsume initially lowers her expectations, assuming the spices will overwhelm everything. After tasting it though, the only thing overwhelmed is her senses. Makito and Shigenori Notion are just as impressed, able to identify each ingredient and amazed at how well Shun made them work together. When Shun reveals his secret, it only adds to the impact. The judges crown him the Prince of Smoke. He earns 88 points, tying with Zenji for second place. Natsume looks like she is reaching her limit, her tongue barely able to keep up. There are now 2 ties. Etsuya explains that if things remain tied after judging ends, the 5 judges will vote to decide who advances to the main tournament. But with more contestants still to go, that outcome seems unlikely. Next up is Akira. Before stepping forward, he tells Suma that he prepared an extra plate just for him. Ironically, Suma did the same. It's finally time to see who's boss. Akira presents his dish. The judges expect fish head curry, but instead, it's a simple bowl with leavened bread sealed over the top. He hands each of them a spoon to break the crust before eating, and gives one to Suma too. As Suma cracks the bread, a massive burst of aroma erupts from the bowl. The points for Group B are displayed, and Megumi does really well, ranking 4th place, while Takumi ranks 3rd place. Isako comes in 2nd, and Alice ranks 1st. These are the contestants proceeding to the main tournament. Meanwhile, in Group A, the scent of the dish fills the entire area, and even people up in the crowd can smell it. The judges take a bite, and it's so good that they immediately begin analyzing it. Akira made use of a special leaf, but he also used yogurt to balance the strong scent of the leaf, which only added to making the dish completely irresistible. Because of the food, Natsume starts falling for Akira and tries rizzing him up, but bro is a loyal dog and says he only fights for June. This, however, doesn't stop her. Yua then asks the judges for their scores. Just then, the Group B contestants arrive, and Takumi is eager to see Suma's score, only to find out that he hasn't been scored yet. The judges give their scores and display them on the screen. Akira has the highest score. Ryu moves to 2nd place, and knowing Irina would not be happy, he decides to do even better in the main tournament. Ikumi and Ryuko, who are now placed 5th, are eliminated. Irina watches quietly until her peace is disturbed by Satoshi and Fumio. Next, Suma serves his dish to the judges and also presents one to Akira. Akira asks why Suma has a smug look on his face, clearly disliking the fact that Suma is still smug even after tasting his food. Suma tells him he was just thinking about how not so crazy his idea was, revealing an omelet. When he tears open the egg, the fragrance fills the room even more intensely than Akira's did. He then tosses Akira the spoon, saying the same word Akira had said to him earlier. The judges dig in, and the dish hits hard. They love it so much that it sends them out of this world. They begin analyzing the ingredients, and Akira realizes Suma's secret ingredient is mango chutney. Suma explains the entire process, and the judges are clearly impressed. Seeing him like this, Irina remembers all the time Suma almost failed and actually failed. Fumio comments that he simply doesn't know when to quit, and is someone who never lets a failure stay a failure. After all the glazing, Yua finally asks the judges for their scores, since everyone is on edge. When the scores are revealed, Suma ranks 2nd place, just 1 point away from 1st and tied with Ryo. The crowd has mixed reactions, with some people disappointed and others relieved. However, 3 of the judges gave Suma higher scores than Akira, meaning Suma would have won if this followed their standard cooking battle rules. 2 judges even begin fighting over which dish was better, while Yua tries to calm them down. Etsuya and Roland now look forward to the main tournament, where the real winner will be decided. When everyone returns to their dormitory, they throw a party as usual. Megumi remembers the feeling of winning and gaining supporters. Even Motoko had apologized for misunderstanding her and promised to support her in the main tournament. Yuki also promised to cheer her on during the main tournament. When Megumi's fans called out to her for a picture, Yuki encouraged her to go. After Megumi left, Fumio showed up, and Yuki immediately started talking about what they needed to prepare to support Megumi. However, Fumio instead thanked her for doing her best in the competition, causing Yuki to burst into tears. In the present, Satoshi brings out more food wearing only his apron, which shocks the newcomers. When Ryoko asks about Shun, Yuki explains that he is probably in his room, frustrated but won't show it, though she plans on dragging him out to the party anyway. Satoshi informs the winners that the main tournament will determine which first tier, excluding Irina, will become the next best chef of the academy, so they should all give it their best. Takumi tells Sama not to fail until they face each other in the tournament, and Sama agrees. Meanwhile, Jun gets drunk all by herself, and Akira carries her away, promising to win the main tournament just for her, because she saved him. At the same time, Alice causes chaos in Irina's office, begging her to come celebrate passing the tournament, but Irina refuses, claiming she is busy with paperwork, so Alice lets her be. Before they leave, Irina congratulates Alice and Ryo for passing, and after they leave, she also congratulates Hizuko. Meanwhile, Nao watches everything from outside the window while sitting in a tree. She gets too excited and starts running along the branch, which breaks and causes her to fall. Now all alone, Irina thinks back to the competition, remembering Suma's dish and how much she enjoyed the aroma, but she quickly tries to suppress those thoughts. Back at Polar Star, Megumi joins Suma, who is relaxing on the balcony. They reminisce about the time they spent together, and Megumi finally thanks him for helping her make it this far. Suma tells her sure it was all her and praises her cooking, making her blush. Meanwhile, Ikumi watches them from the shadows, unaware that Yuki and Ryuko are right behind her until Yuki suddenly speaks, startling her. Megumi compliments Suma on his performance in the tournament, but he says he isn't satisfied, saying he will do better, as he was expecting to get the highest point from all 3 judges. He tells her that he wants to learn as much as possible from the culinary world and experience all kinds of ingredients and cooking techniques so he can do better in the future meals. Later, everyone joins them on the balcony for round 2. Satoshi finally removes his apron, traumatizing Ikumi, while everyone else finds it hilarious. They end up having a really chaotic night, and Megumi once again falls victim to one of Suma's disgusting dishes.